Chapter 34-39. After being yelled at by his grandfather, the man in luxurious clothes didn't dare to say anything else. He only said, "I was watching from here just now, so I heard one of the women call the woman in black Shuang. Also, the woman in red seems to know those captured slaves. She said something about Gu Xiangyi. Moreover, I know that they're staying in the inn ahead, and they've even booked the inn." He paused for a moment, and then said, "I went to take a look. Regardless of whether they're men or women, they're all extremely outstanding. They don't look like ordinary people." As he spoke, he added, "They should be from aristocratic families." The old man was slightly shocked when he heard this. Right at this moment, a cry of surprise came from ahead. They looked over when they heard the sound, and they saw a man with a folding fan in his hand had actually crippled the city lord's cultivation so easily. On the ground, the middle-aged man and the old man coughed up blood as they fell to the ground. They looked at the smiling man with a folding fan in his hand with astonishment. "The city lord actually asked the city lords of the nearby cities for help just now? Look, the signal in the sky has been sent out." A member of an aristocratic family exclaimed in surprise. He felt that the situation was really troublesome. The city gates were destroyed, the city lord was crippled, and the guard in the city were lying on the ground half dead. Now that the signal for help had been sent out, if the city lords of the nearby cities rushed over, it would probably be a huge battle. At this moment, probably no one would have thought that if they really fought, they would only be annihilated. Of course, there was one exception, and that was the Chun family's ancestor. At this moment, his face was slightly pale, but he still didn't dare to be sure, until he heard a voice from ahead. "Who exactly are you to injure me to this extent?" The old man on the ground wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth as he stared fixedly at the man holding a folding fan in front of him, who looked like an elegant young master. Du Fan fanned himself lightly and glanced at the people on the ground. He revealed a smile. "Listen well, this young master is Du Fan." Du Fan, Du Fan. These two words were like a clap of thunder in the Chun clan's ancestors' ears, fiercely striking down from the sky and charring him black. As a result, his body trembled violently, and he staggered back a few steps. Grandfather, what's wrong?" The man in luxurious clothes hurriedly supported him. Seeing this, the middle-aged man asked with a grave expression, "Father, what's wrong? I don't think anyone from our Chun clan has done anything rude to them, right?" The Chun clan's patriarch grabbed his son's wrist and asked anxiously. When the other family members saw this, they secretly waved their hands and signaled for those who were about to make a move to stop. They quietly watched the Chun family's old ancestor. They were certain that the Chun family's patriarch knew who those people were. When the middle-aged man saw this, he knew the seriousness of the matter. He thought for a moment and said, "I don't think so. Our people didn't give the order, so no one got involved in this matter." Moreover, when they saw how easily those people shocked everyone, they naturally knew how powerful they were. Thus, they didn't dare to rashly make a move, lest they bring trouble to themselves. It's good that they didn't. It's good that they didn't. The old man nodded and clearly heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, one of the guards saw the seriousness of the matter and hesitated for a moment before saying, "Old master, last night, the young master blocked the way and took liberties with that woman in red." Chapter 34-40. Since when did I flirt with her? I only wanted to show her the way and bring her around the city for sightseeing. Seeing this, the man in luxurious clothes hurriedly spoke, helping his grandfather calm down as he glared at the talkative guard. The guard lowered his head, not daring to speak. However, he knew that the young master's actions last night were seen as flirting with the lady in the eyes of others. Fortunately, they had pulled him back and stopped him, preventing the matter from escalating. After waiting for his father to catch his breath, family head Chun hesitated, then asked, "Father, who are they?" From the looks of it, they should have a rather powerful background. But what kind of people were they? How could they frighten his father to this extent? "The ghost doctor, it's the ghost Dr. Fengjiu." Old Master Chen's voice trembled as he said, "There's been no news of her for many years. Now, she's finally appeared again." Hearing this, The people from the other families couldn't help but feel shocked. The ghost, Dr. Fengjiu? At this moment, once this name was mentioned, all the information about the ghost Dr. Fengjiu flooded into their minds. In an instant, everyone knew that the lady in red was indeed Fengjiu. Aside from the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, who else could wear a red robe in such a carefree and unrestrained manner? Aside from the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, who else would have such powerful subordinates by his side? Aside from the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, who else would dare to act so arrogantly? While everyone was still in shock, on the other side, after crippling the mayor's cultivation and seriously injuring the two people beside him, Du Fan and the rest didn't even look at them as they strode towards the inn. With such a shocking scene, those who were tactful would know that it was best to end things here. However, thinking of the signal that the mayor had sent out, Du Fan smiled and opened the fan in his hand with a swish, gently fanning himself. If there was anyone who didn't know better and wanted to challenge them, they would gladly oblige. In front, Fengjiu led Gu Xiangyi and the rest into the inn. The sudden arrival of so many people made Mo Chun and the rest on the first floor look at them in surprise. An old acquaintance, Fengjiu said to them, then said to Gu Xiangyi, "Go take a bath and treat your wounds first. I'll get someone to prepare some food for you. Let's sit down and talk later." As he spoke, he instructed Leng Hua to take them down to make arrangements. Hearing this, Gu Xiangyi nodded and followed Leng Hua to the back. "Leng Shuang, go buy some clothes for them and come back. Qin Xin, tell the shopkeeper to get more people to prepare some food for them. Also invite some doctors to treat their wounds." Fengjiu instructed them to get to work, then sat down at the table. "Yes." The two of them responded, and then went their separate ways. "He looks a little familiar, but I can't remember who he is," Guan Shilin said, looking thoughtfully at the tall man. "It's Gu Xiangyi, the person who delivered the spiritual medicine to our heavenly pill house. I don't know how he ended up like this. His spiritual power has been sealed, and he can't speak. The old and the young are being escorted to be enslaved." Fengjiu said, then paused. Fortunately, Leng Shuang met him and recognized him. If Leng Shuang hadn't met him and recognized him, he probably wouldn't have walked past them. They probably wouldn't know what happened to them in a short time. Chapter 34-41. As they chatted downstairs, Leng Shuang ordered the waiter to deliver the clothes to them after buying them. About half an hour later, Gu Xiangyi and her father walked out and stood in front of Fengjiu and the others. Because it was just right for 4 people to sit at a table, Fengjiu stood up and turned to sit at the table next to them. She gestured sit. Looking at Gu Xiangyi and her father, who looked completely new, she felt that the Gu Xiangyi she knew in the past had returned. The two nodded and sat down at the table next to her. "Give me your hands." She gestured for them to reach out. Hearing this, the two of them stretched out their hands and placed them on the table. Fengjiu stretched out her hand to take their pulse, and not long after, she withdrew her hand. Seeing this, the two of them looked at her. Did they drink the medicine that made them lose their voices? Is it the same for your people? Fengjiu asked, as she took out the silver needles from her space. Gu Xiangyi nodded and poured some tea on the table. Then, she dipped her finger in the tea and wrote on the table. She asked, "Can they recover?" Seeing the words on the table, Fengjiu smiled. "A mere medicine for losing one's voice is not a problem for me. Don't worry." She opened the wrapped silver needles and said, "I'll help you use the silver needles and spiritual power to force the medicine out of your body. As for your people, I'll write a prescription for them to decoct the medicine. After drinking it, they should be able to speak by tonight." Hearing this, Gu Xiangyi and her father looked at each other and secretly sighed in relief. Gu Xiangyi used the tea to write the words, "Thank you," on the table and sat upright, waiting for her to perform the acupuncture for them. Fengjiu smiled. She swiped her finger across the bag of silver needles and took one out. She stood up and went to Gu Xiangyi's side. "Don't move during the acupuncture process." Mo Chun, Jun Jushang, and Guan Shilin sat at a table nearby. They did not disturb Fengjiu as he performed the acupuncture. The guests on the second floor stood there and watched. They were very curious about their identities. Fengjiu applied the needles to both of them at the same time. After half an incense stick of time, he pulled out the silver needles and put them away. The spiritual power in his palm carried a trace of vitality and was injected into their bodies. When the medicine was forced out of their bodies, it also opened up the sealed spiritual power in their bodies. Pooh! Pooh! The Gu family's father and son both spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. After spitting out that mouthful of blood, the sound that had been stuck in their throats could finally be heard. Furthermore, the spiritual energy around their bodies began to surge. Cough, cough. The Gu family's patriarch coughed twice. He wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and took a deep breath. He felt his entire body recover. He immediately cupped his hands and said to Fengjiu, "Thank you, Ghost Doctor. If we didn't meet you this time, I'm afraid we wouldn't know what to do." Fengjiu smiled slightly. "No need to thank me. Sit down and rest for a while. I still want to hear from you too. How are you doing up like this?" As she spoke, she looked towards the second floor. Seeing that they were all staring at them, she said to the Lung Shuang, who was waiting at the side, "Didn't the shopkeeper say that the guests would be checking out today?" Hearing this, the Lung Shuang glanced at the second floor and walked up. "Guests, please." Chapter 3442. After those people left, the shopkeeper asked the waiter to clean up the blood on the ground and then retreated. After Gu Xiangyi calmed down for a while, he said, "Actually, this is our family's internal strife. The people of the second branch colluded with outsiders to attack us and seize the Gu family sovereignty. They also chased out the people of the first branch and had people escort us here to become slaves. I didn't expect to meet you here and be saved by you." After listening to him briefly explain the matter in a few words, Fengjiu only smiled. It seems that in the years we were not here, many people have become arrogant. They even dared to attack the people who worked with us. Because of the family's internal strife, our people did not have time to ask for help from the Heavenly Pill Building. They took over the Gu family and did not stop doing business with you. However, at that time, some people in my family escaped. I also asked them to ask for help from the Heavenly Pill Building. We also left some clues along the way, but we didn't expect to meet you before they arrived. Fengjiu listened to them talk, while asking Lung Shuang to get a pen and paper from the shopkeeper to write down the prescription. He asked Lung Shuang to buy some medicinal herbs and have someone boil the medicine for the people of the Gu family to drink. It's easy to deal with the family's internal strife. Fengjiu smiled and said, "I came back this time to prepare to get married. I won't stay on this continent for long. I will go directly to the lower continent. How about this? I will send someone to accompany you back to deal with the matter and solve it." Hearing him say this, the father and son of the Gu family naturally had no objections. They immediately nodded and stood up to thank him. At the same time, at the city gate, a few figures on swords flew over from the sky. When they arrived at the city gate and saw the collapsed corner of the city wall, they were slightly surprised and looked at each other. "City lords, you're finally here. Our city lord." The old man saw them and couldn't help but cry out in a choked voice. When they came down and saw the dying city lord being supported by the old man, they couldn't help but turn pale with fright. What's going on? How did it become like this? What kind of person could actually cripple his cultivation? This was simply worse than killing someone with a single slash. The old man took a deep breath and endured the excruciating pain in his internal organs. He said, "A group of people came to the city. They released dozens of people who wanted to become slaves on the street and injured the guards. They also heavily injured us and crippled the city lord's cultivation base. Those people are too lawless. City lords, you must not let such a person do as he pleases. Who dares to be so arrogant? You don't even know where they came from." One of the city lords asked with a frown, "I don't know who they are. I only know that the man who injured us is called Du Fan." Du Fan? They looked at each other. They had never heard of this name before. Among the crowd, the Chun family's patriarch, who had just reprimanded his grandson, walked forward after hearing their words. "City lords, you must not offend that person." "Old Master Chun, what do you mean by that?" When the heavily injured old man heard his words, he couldn't help but glare at him angrily. Those people had injured them to such an extent. Were they just going to let go like this? Impossible. Chapter 34:43. The injured old man supported their city lord with a face full of grief. City lords, those people dare to hurt our city lord today. It's hard to guarantee that they won't do the same to all of you one day. Furthermore, our city lord has a special relationship with all of you. Now that his cultivation has been crippled, how can all of you stay out of this and allow those savage people to continue living in this world? Today, they've crippled our city lord's cultivation and destroyed our city's walls. At the same time, they're also slapping all of you city lords in the face. When the hesitant city lords heard this, a vicious aura rose in their hearts. That's right, those people dared to treat a city lord in this way. Weren't they looking down on them as well? Furthermore, today's matter had already turned out this way. If they didn't step in, how could they establish themselves in this world in the future? At that moment, one of them said in a low voice, "That's right. Those people are so savage. If we don't do anything about it, wouldn't we be letting them continue to wreak havoc everywhere? Where are they now? Have they escaped?" Another city lord asked, his face full of displeasure. Hearing this, the injured old man was overjoyed and hurriedly said, "No, these people are very savage. They haven't escaped. They're staying in an inn in the city. It's just up ahead. Let's bring you there." Thus, the old man ordered his men to send the city lords back first while he was supported by his guards towards the inn. With every step he took, the murderous intent in the old man's heart grew stronger. With the city lords working together, he didn't believe that they couldn't kill those people. When the Chun family's ancestor saw that they were escorting the city lords forward, he couldn't help but become anxious. "You can't. You really can't." However, no one listened to him. The guards also followed those people and left. The surrounding commoners also followed to watch the show. At this moment, when the family lords and ancestors saw this, they asked hesitantly, "Elder Chun, why don't you just tell them that it's the ghost Dr. Fengjiu? If that woman in red really is the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, even if they work together, I'm afraid that they'll lose miserably." When the old man heard this, he looked at them and sighed. They won't listen. Besides, in this situation, do you think that they'll believe me even if I tell them? Even if you hear it, I'm afraid that you won't believe it, right? Not to mention you, even I don't dare to believe it. After all, there hasn't been any news of the ghost Dr. Fengjiu for many years. Hearing this, everyone fell silent. Indeed, they didn't really believe it in their hearts. However, they still somewhat believed it. After all, from the way those people acted, who else would do such a thing other than the ghost Dr. Fengjiu? However, there were people who said that the ghost Dr. Fengjiu had already died, and there were also people who said that she had provoked a strong enemy and was hiding. Now, there were people who said that she had suddenly appeared in this city. Whether it was true or false, it was hard to tell which was the truth. Which one is fake? T. Chapter 34:44. We've been gone for too long, and Master's return has been too peaceful. If we don't make any noise, no one will know that our Master is back. Luo Yu crossed his arms over his chest as he spoke like a ruffian, his eyes also landing on the people outside. Inside the inn, other than the table Fengjiu and the others were sitting at, all the other tables were filled with food. The Gu clan's people were all sitting at the table and eating while paying attention to the movements outside. Just now, they found out that the person who saved them was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu, the famous ghost Dr. Fengjiu. Thinking of this, they couldn't help but look towards Fengjiu, who was sitting with a few outstanding men, their eyes filled with admiration. They never thought that there would be a day when they would be able to see the ghost Dr. Fengjiu with their own eyes. It had to be said that she was really dazzling like the sun in the sky, so dazzling that people didn't dare to look directly at her. Fengjiu didn't pay attention to the movements outside, and only said to Guan Shilin, "Brother, later you, Lung Hua, and Lung Shuang will help the Gu clan's people release their sealed spiritual energy." "Okay," Guan Shilin responded and nodded. Outside, a few city lords gathered together and stood in front of the inn's entrance, shouting at Du Fan and Luo Yu, who were leaning against the door, "Call your master out." Puffed. Luo Yu sneered and looked at them with contempt. "You want to see my master with just you? You think too highly of yourselves." Hearing this, the city lords couldn't help but become angry, impudent. A voice filled with pressure shouted, and the pressure along with the air rushed towards Du Fan and Luo Yu. Unexpectedly being shouted at like this, Du Fan and Luo Yu both raised their eyebrows. In the next moment, the two straightened their faces, and their originally leaning bodies straightened. The smiles on their faces disappeared, and a cold shout came from their mouths at the same time. "How dare you?" As soon as this impudent voice came out, it was as if two mountains suddenly pressed down on their heads. A powerful pressure accompanied by a terrifying aura fiercely pounced on them. For a moment, their knees fell heavily to the ground with a plop. Yes. The pain from their knees made many of them cry out in pain and draw in a breath of cold air. What made the city lords feel even more ashamed and shocked was that they, as city lords, had actually knelt down without any warning because of their impudence. The pressure that pressed down on them was so powerful and terrifying that they broke out in cold sweat and forgot how to react for a moment. The surrounding people looked as if they had seen a ghost. They were dumbfounded as they watched the city lords and the guards kneel down with a plop under the cold shouts of the two men. Moreover, they were unable to stand up. A mere city lord actually dares to put on airs in front of us. You really don't know what's good for you. Luo Yu shouted coldly as he narrowed his eyes and stared at the people kneeling on the ground. Du Fan stared at the city lords and opened the folding fan in his hand. He gently fanned himself as he said, "Just kneel. If you dare to stand up before I ask you to," His words were relaxed and carried a hint of a smile. However, the threat in his words was so obvious that the people who were about to stand up froze and didn't dare to move. Chapter 34-45. Inside the inn, Fengjiu and Mo Chun were chatting idly, while the Gu clan members were eating on the first floor. They glanced at the people kneeling outside the inn's door, thinking that these people were too insensible. As city lords, they actually dared to rush over to help without investigating clearly. If it were anyone else, it would have been fine, but they just had to meet the ghost Dr. Fengjiu and the others. Who knew how long they would have to kneel outside like this? When the people from the great clans who had followed them saw the city lords and the others kneeling on the ground with ugly expressions, they couldn't help but be startled, thinking to themselves, could it be that Fengjiu had come out? They squeezed their way forward, but only saw the two men standing on the left and right of the inn's door. Other than the two of them, no one else had come out. "Grandfather, look, the one in red sitting inside is that lady." The man in luxurious clothes poked his head out and pointed at the red figure inside the inn. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but shift their steps slightly, poking their heads out to look inside. After faintly seeing the figure, they fell into deep thought for a while, before one of them lowered his voice and asked, "Are we just going to watch like this? Think of a way to let those city lords know. Otherwise, things will get out of hand." The Chun clan ancestor sighed and said. Therefore, they gathered together to discuss. Not long after, they nodded. After tidying up his robe, the Chun family's ancestor glanced at his grandson and said, "Follow me." Then he walked forward. The city lords were all kneeling, and so were the guards. Thus, when the Chun clan ancestor brought his grandson forward, he immediately attracted everyone's attention. Seeing the Chun clan ancestor walk forward, the city lords were startled. But just as they were about to speak, they saw him lead the young man in luxurious clothes behind him and respectfully cup his hands together in a bow towards the inn. "This old man has brought my inferior grandson to ask for forgiveness from the ghost doctor. Last night, my grandson offended the ghost doctor. Please forgive him." When the Chun clan ancestor's voice rang out, some people were at a loss, while others' expressions changed, and they were extremely shocked. The ghost doctor? At this moment, the faces of the city lords kneeling on the ground paled, and they couldn't help but raise their heads to look inside the inn. The ghost Dr. Fengjiu was here? How? How is this possible? Upon hearing the old ancestor's words, Du Fan and Luo Yu exchanged glances and looked at the old ancestor meaningfully. After a while, Du Fan walked in. Feng Jiu, who was chatting with them, heard the conversation outside and couldn't help but smile. When he saw Du Fan come in, he said to him, "Let them go back." Hearing this, Du Fan replied, "Yes." Then he walked out. When he arrived outside, his gaze swept across the pale-faced people on the ground. Only then did he say to old Master Chun, "My master wants all of you to go back." Hearing this, old Master Chun couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief and hurriedly said, "Thank you, Ghost Doctor." Only then did he leave with his grandson. At the same time, he glanced at the city lords kneeling on the ground. Du Fan and Luo Yu walked into the inn. Once they retracted their pressure, the people kneeling on the ground couldn't help but sigh in relief, and their bodies went limp. There was clearly no pressure, but at this moment, they couldn't stand even if they wanted to. Chapter 3446. On the first floor of the inn, Feng Jiu and the others sat and drank, not paying attention to the people outside. At their level of cultivation, those people were no longer worthy of their attention. As long as they didn't go too far, they wouldn't bother with them. "Since we're not leaving today, I'll go back to my room to sleep." She stood up and said to Bai Qingcheng, "How are you guys keep an eye on them?" "Yes." Bai Qingcheng replied and watched her get up and go upstairs. Seeing her leave, Emo Chan said to Jun Jueshang, "How about we go upstairs and play a few games of chess? I'll be happy to accompany you." Jun Jueshang said and stood up as well, walking upstairs with him. Seeing this, Guan Shilin smiled at Gu Xiangyi, who was next to him, and said, "Let's talk." Xiao Jio said that he'll let some people go back with you to help. "Have you decided how to deal with those people when you go back?" Gu Xiangyi and her father looked at each other, and the two of them went to the table where Guan Shilin was sitting and sat down to chat with him. Hao also went back to his room, and the others were busy with their own things. Although there were many people in the inn, it was very quiet. Outside, the few city lords who had been helped away found the old man of the Chun family. After learning the identity of the people in the inn from him, they were so scared that their faces turned green. They didn't dare to stay for long, and didn't even dare to think about standing up for the city lord whose cultivation had been destroyed. Instead, they hurriedly left for their own cities. They thought that it would be a chaotic battle, but after knowing the identity of Feng Jiu and the others, no one dared to fight with them, and the matter came to an end. The next morning, the people of the Gu family solemnly thanked Feng Jiu. Feng Jiu also stayed behind and asked Du Fan and Luo Yu to go back to the Gu family to help them deal with the internal strife. "After you're done, go directly to the Heavenly Pill building in 100 River City." Feng Jiu looked at the two of them and said, "We'll wait for you at the Heavenly Pill building. Hurry up, don't delay for too long." "Yes, master." The two of them responded and watched as the group of people left. Only then did they return with the people from the Gu clan. After they left, the news of Feng Jiu's appearance in the city was like a feather blown away by the wind, spreading everywhere. It also let many people know that Feng Jiu had returned. Many people who received the news rushed to the Heavenly Dan building in the 100 River City. They knew that once Feng Jiu returned, he would definitely return to the Heavenly Dan building. Therefore, they waited at the Heavenly Dan building. The two realms were connected. Many cultivators from the upper realm also tried to go down to the lower realm to take a look. After all, their strength was not outstanding in the upper realm, but if they went down to the lower realm, they would be heaven-defying existences. However, even if they had the intention, it was very difficult for them to pass the test of CK and Mu Exent, who were guarding the immortal road. Therefore, gradually, the cultivators stopped thinking about it. At the same time, Wanyan Xianhua, who was peacefully nursing her pregnancy in the family's backyard, was lying on a soft couch with squinted eyes and basking in the sun. She looked at the warm sunlight shining down from the sky and narrowed her eyes comfortably. She stretched like a lazy cat. "Xianhua, when are we leaving? We've been here for quite some time. You don't want to stay here forever, do you?" Wang Yinshe walked out with a bored expression. Chapter 34:47. Wang Yin looked at him and said, I heard a Jew say that they are already here. They are going to the Heavenly Dan building in 100 River City. However, Jun Jueshang is also with her. It seems that he is waiting for me to appear. 13th uncle. What do you think we should do now? What? Jun Jueshang is also here. Does he have nothing to do in the Xiaoyao sect? He even followed you to the lower world? From the looks of it, he really hates you to the core. He must want to drag you back personally. Wang Yinshe said and shook his head. TSK. I wonder what will happen to you after he catches you. Wang Yin coughed lightly and sat up straight. He said seriously, so I think that I can't meet a Jiu at the moment. I don't want to be caught by him as soon as I show my face. As she spoke, her eyes flickered and she said, however, I do have a good idea. What good idea? Wang Yinshe didn't believe her. Either we stay here and don't go out, or we go to the Peach Blossom Cove that a Jiu mentioned and avoid them. This way, we won't meet him. Seeing this, Wang Yinshe said, then let's go to the Peach Blossom Cove. In any case, I can walk around there. Here, there are dark clouds everywhere. It is very troublesome to go out. Therefore, once the two decided, they found time to talk to the people in the family. The next morning, they left here. The head of the Wang Yin family and the others who sent them off looked at their daughter, who was getting farther and farther away. They couldn't help but feel sad. Their daughter was leaving like this. When would they see her again? She didn't mention the child in her belly. They pretended not to know and didn't ask. Now that they saw her carrying a child and going away alone, it was impossible for them to feel relieved. In any case, she has her 13th uncle with her. Don't worry, Wang Yin old man said and patted his son's shoulder. Then he turned around and walked back. Wang Yin, who had left with Wang Yinshe, walked on the road. His mood was as happy as a bird that had been set free, and the smile on his face could not be concealed. It's still better to be outside. To be honest, I don't really like staying in the family. The Inshi is too strong. As Wang Yinshe spoke, he summoned his flying sword and jumped onto it. At the same time, he said to Wang Yin, come on up. I'll just carry you on the sword. Seeing this, Wang Yin nodded. Only then did he leap onto the tip of his foot and lightly land on his flying sword, flying together with him. Meanwhile, in the higher realm, Xinyuan Mose was searching everywhere for rare treasures. He wanted to personally prepare a betrothal gift for Fengjiu. Thus, those things had to be priceless and extremely precious. These days, all the betrothal gifts that he had prepared were all placed in his space. As long as his subordinates heard of any precious treasures, no matter how difficult it was to obtain them, he would find a way to get them. On this day, he heard that the eastern pearl of the eastern sea was very beautiful and priceless. Thus, he also rushed to the eastern sea. As for Fengjiu, who had already arrived at the Heavenly Pill building, he had been idle in the mansion for the past few days. He was only waiting for his subordinates to finish their work so that he could leave and return to his family. Chapter 34:48. Fengjiu already knew when Mo Chen walked in. She didn't even need to look at him to be familiar with his aura. His aura gradually became very gentle. Compared to Xinyuan Moses, it was less fierce and sharp. It was easier for people to get used to his presence without being wary. Knowing that he sat down but didn't say anything, she couldn't help but feel a little surprised. Because her face was covered by a book, she couldn't see his expression. Therefore, she reached out and took the book off her face. Not going to sleep? Mo Chan saw her take off the book and asked in amusement, how can I sleep with you staring at me like that? Fengjiu chuckled and sat up from the soft couch. She asked, you're already here. Don't you plan to go back and see your master? Hearing this, Mo Chan said gently, there's no hurry. After all, I just went back home yesterday. As for seeing my master, I don't think there's a need to rush. Let's wait for a while. Seeing this, Fengjiu nodded. It's been a few days since I returned to the Heavenly Pill House. I'm just waiting for Leng Hua and the others to settle the matters at hand. When Du Fan and the others come back, I can go back. She chuckled. When the time comes, how about I invite you to the Peach Blossom Cove? The peach blossoms there are always in full bloom. It's very beautiful. Okay. Emo-chan smiled in response. When the time comes, I'll treat you to a drink under the peach blossom tree. Hearing this, Fengjiu chuckled in response. The two of them chatted for a while in the courtyard. Then, they saw Jun Jushang and Guan Shilin walk in. Guan Shilin greeted them with a smile before entering the courtyard. Xiaojiu, Emo-chun, I knew you would be here, Guan Shilin said with a smile. He strode over and sat down beside them. He called out to Jun Jushang. Sit here. There's still a seat here. The corner of Emo-chin's mouth twitched as he noticed that his snow-white robe had been smeared black. He glanced at Guan Shilin and asked, Where did you go just now? Guan Shilin didn't notice it at first, but when he looked at it, he couldn't help but be startled. He grabbed his robe and looked at it. It's dirty? I didn't even know. Then, she looked at Emo-chan and said apologetically, Why don't you go back and change your clothes? I'm really sorry. No need, Emo-chan said. He didn't really care about it. Seeing this, Guan Shilin smiled and said, Just now we went to the training field and exchanged a few blows. You see, my body is dirty because of him. He helplessly spread out his hands and looked at Jun Jushang, who was standing there. Jun Jueshang calmly shifted his gaze to Fengjiu and asked, When will you tell me her whereabouts? Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and chuckled. Don't worry. Didn't I say it already? When the time comes, you will naturally meet. Hearing this again, Jun Jushang frowned. He didn't ask any more questions and just sat down beside them. At this time, Leng Hua walked in from outside and called out respectfully, Master, there are people outside who wish to see you. Who is it? Fengjiu asked casually. It's the city lords of the surrounding towns and people from the various great clans. They are currently blocked outside the mansion. They all wish to see you, Master, Leng Hua said. Fengjiu smiled. Send them away. Tell them to look for you if they need anything. She didn't want to bother with other matters and left them all to her subordinates. This way, she could relax. Hearing this, Leng Hua paused for a moment before answering, yes. He turned around and walked out. Chapter 3449. Fengjiu nodded. Okay, I've prepared some things for your family. You can take them back with you. As she spoke, she looked at Leng Shuang. You send Emo-chun back and give him the things. Yes. Leng Shuang responded and looked at Emo-chun. Then I'll thank you in advance. Emo-chun smiled and left with Leng Shuang. Seeing that Emo-chun had left, Jun Jueshang did not stay and returned to the courtyard. Watching them leave, Guan Shilin asked with a smile, Xiaojiu, she wouldn't have gone there too, right? If that's the case, won't they meet very soon? Fengjiu smiled. My sister left first. I told her to go to Peach Blossom Cove. We'll leave in a few days. We won't meet on the road, even if the dates are staggered. With a smile in her eyes, she thought to herself, besides, she's pregnant, so she probably won't be in a hurry. The time they spend here can make the journey easier for her and Wanyan Sure-san. In the following days, she stayed in the Heavenly Elixir building leisurely for a while, until one day, Du Fan and the others returned to the Heavenly Elixir building to report after finishing the Gu family's affairs. In the courtyard, Du Fan and Luo Yu told her about the Gu family's affairs. In the end, they said, now that Gu Xiangyi and his son have regained control of the Gu family, they can't come because they have to reorganize the family's affairs. Therefore, they asked us to pass on their behalf. After dealing with the family's affairs, we'll personally come and thank you. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. Got it. You must be tired after coming back. Go back and rest. We'll leave tomorrow. Yes. The two of them responded and bowed before retreating. The next morning, Emo-chun heard that they were leaving. He smiled warmly. All right, you can go back first. I'll go to Master's place. On the day of your wedding, I'll definitely attend the wedding. Okay, take care. Fengjiu nodded at him. Emo-chun sent them off and watched them leave in their spaceship. Only then did he turn around and head home. Phoenix Dynasty, Feng Manor. If there was a special existence, then it could only be the Phoenix Dynasty. From the change of dynasty to the Phoenix dynasty, it was destroyed by others and became a place without imperial authority. Logically speaking, such an existence was like a piece of fat meat that everyone would stare at. However, because of the Feng clan's strength, even if there was no imperial authority here, no one dared to have any thoughts about it. Although the imperial system of the Phoenix dynasty had already disappeared, everyone still referred to this place as the Phoenix dynasty, and the Feng clan was still the supreme existence here. In the Feng manor, the members of the Feng family who had received news half a month ago that Fengjiu's group would be returning were all waiting with joy. The entire manor was busy preparing, anticipating their arrival every day. A few familiar people found out that Fengjiu's group was coming back, so they often came to visit. After asking around, they found out that they were coming back to get married. Thus, they all secretly prepared congratulatory gifts. A few days later, the spaceship flew past the city and landed directly in front of the Feng Manor's main gate. The entire city could not help but look, until a familiar red figure appeared in everyone's line of sight. Someone shouted, "The Feng clan's eldest young miss has returned." Chapter 3450. When Feng Sanyuan, Feng Xiao, and the others heard that Feng Jiu and the others had arrived, they all came out to greet them. When they saw her return after being away from home for several years, everyone's eyes couldn't help but redden. Grandfather, grandmother, father, mother. Feng Jiu greeted them one by one and bowed to them. Then she smiled and said, "I'm back." Good, good. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back." Everyone looked at her excitedly. When they saw the little person standing next to her, they were startled for a moment. This is how her? Feng Jiu said and pushed the little guy forward. "Quickly, greet great-grandfather and the others." "How?" Greets great-grandfather, great-grandmother, grandfather, grandmother. Howard knelt down and bowed to them, then cowed out. "So it's how? You were such a small child back then, but you're already so big. If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have recognized you." Feng Sanyuan laughed loudly and helped him up, saying, "Quickly get up, Howard. Let's go home with great-grandfather. Back then, when your mother brought you back, you were still so young. She still held you in her arms." Howard listened and raised his head slightly to look at great-grandfather who was holding his hand. Seeing that he was even younger than his grandfather, he couldn't help but be curious. "Ha ha ha! Xiao Jiu, come. Let's go home. You haven't been back for several years." Feng Xiao laughed loudly. Looking at his daughter who had returned home, he reached out and patted her shoulder. Then he looked at the people behind her and said, "Come in together. It's been a long time since the house has been so lively." The group of people walked into the manor in a grandiose manner. Many of the people in the manor were old. When they saw Feng Jiu, they all quickly bowed. Everyone's eyes were filled with respect and worship. Some young maidservants and manservants couldn't hide their curiosity and secretly glanced at their family's eldest young miss. It was the first time they saw the legendary Feng family's eldest young miss at such a close distance, so they were extremely excited. Feng Sanyuan walked in front while holding Hao Er's hand. At the same time, he instructed the housekeeper who was waiting on the side. "This month, there will be a double portion in the manor. Let everyone be happy." "Hee. Thank you, elder." When the housekeeper heard this, he chuckled and expressed his thanks. He raised his voice and said to everyone, "Old master said that this month, everyone in the manor will receive double the monthly allowance. He wants everyone to be happy." In an instant, when everyone in the manor heard this, they couldn't help but become happy. The servants all happily gave their thanks. Who didn't know that the Feng manor was the most? It manors. It could be said that every servant in the manor, they were proud to enter, inside the Feng Manor's main hall, everyone gathered. At this time, Feng Jiu introduced them to each other. After all, aside from a few familiar faces, Jun Ju Shang, Qin Xian, and the others had never met before. Outside the Feng Manor, Wanyan Shursan held a wine gourd in his hand as he walked and drank. Hearing the people in the streets say that the Feng Manor's eldest young miss had returned, his expression couldn't help but change. He also went to the Feng Manor's main gate to take a look. Chapter 3451. Feng Jiu. The man thought a bit, then said, the Feng family's eldest young miss' original name was Feng Qingge, but later on, I heard that she was also called Feng Jiu. I don't know what happened. Oh, so she really did come back. Wang Yanshi turned his gaze and looked in front of him. He saw that there were quite a few people in the surroundings. Aside from a few guards in front of the Feng Manor's gate, he did not see any other familiar people. However, just as he was about to leave, he saw Leng Hua walk out and head towards the flying boat. Seeing this, he squeezed forward and shouted, Leng Hua, Leng Hua. At the same time, he waved the wine gourd in his hand to attract his attention. Leng Hua, who was about to enter the flying boat to get something, looked in the direction of the voice and was surprised to see Wang Yanshi. He then walked towards him. Before he could speak, he saw him set up a soundproof barrier, and a questioning voice could be heard. Leng Hua, did Jun Jushang also come with you? Wang Yanshi asked while paying attention to the situation outside the Feng Manor's gate to prevent Jun Jushang from suddenly coming out. Seeing him, Leng Hua slightly smiled and warmly said, young Master Jun also came. He has been following us ever since we came back. He said that he was looking for young Miss Wanyan. Right now, he is sitting in the manor. Leng Hua's smiling voice paused slightly, asking, is young Miss Wanyan doing well? Master was originally preparing to go see her when young Master Jun wasn't paying attention after settling down. Right now, she's idle every day. All she does is eat and sleep. The only activity she does is go to the peach blossom forest to admire the flowers. We've been here for a few days. I was bored staying there, so I came into the city to ask around. Who knew that I would run into you? As Wang Yanshi spoke, he looked inside the Feng Manor and said, speaking the truth, your manor security is not just a little bit tight. I tried to go in to take a look, but who knew that I would almost be discovered before I even got in? Then let's find a time, and I'll take you in to see the old master and the patriarch, Leng Hua said. Hearing this, Wang Yanshi waved his hand. Forget it. Once I show my face, Jun Jushang will know that my troublesome niece is here. You don't know that she actually conspired with your master to rape Jun Jushang before escaping. If she was caught by him, she wouldn't even know how she died. Hearing this, Leng Hua just smiled and didn't say anything. She also knew a little about this matter. She also knew when her master went to prepare the medicine. In addition, Jun Jushang had followed them all the way. He looked as if he wanted to find Wan Yin, Qianhua no matter what. So, he more or less knew some things about them. I've been out for a while. Master still needs to wait for me to bring the things in. I'll tell Master later, Leng Hua said, looking at him with gentle eyes, asking if he had anything else to tell him. All right then. There are many people here. Right now, you are all famous people. Everyone in the city has their eyes on you. I reckon that if it weren't for my soundproof barrier, many pairs of ears would be listening. As Wang Yanshi spoke, he waved his hand and removed the soundproof barrier. He then said, I'm leaving. He turned around and left first. After seeing him leave, Leng Hua got on the flying ship and brought some things in. Quite a few people who had noticed what had happened began to discuss. Who was that person? Why did he look like a stranger? Chapter 3452. While eating a sour fruit, she listened to Wang Yanshi talk about the Feng Manor's matters. Wang Yanxianhua's eyes flashed slightly, and she said with some confusion, he actually followed us here? What is a Geo planning to do? Didn't she say that she would lose him halfway? Hell, what is it? Are you scared now? Wang Yanshi stared at her with a look of schadenfreude, saying, that is the master of Xiaoyao sect. Do you think that little girl, Feng Jiu, would be able to easily lose him? Now that he's already here, tell me, isn't it just a matter of time before they meet? As he spoke, he glanced at her slightly bulging belly. It had only been 3 months, and it was already visible. If Jun Jushang saw it, then things would become troublesome. Wang Yanxianhua gently rubbed her belly with one hand while lazily lying on the couch, saying, As long as I don't run into him before I give birth, nothing will happen. Once I give birth and he doesn't find out, he won't know that I have child." As she spoke, she paused and said, "In truth, the main problem lies with Geo. Right now, I don't know what she's planning. Originally, she wanted to hide in the Peach Blossom Cove so that Jun Jushang would not be able to find her, but with the current situation, it was hard to say." Seeing the situation, Wanyan Shursan said, "That's simple. I'll find some time to go to the Feng Manor and ask Fengjio. When we find out, forget it. She will come over in a few days. I'll ask her myself then." As Wanyan Xianhua spoke, she glanced at Wanyan Shursan and said, "13th uncle, don't go to the Feng Manor so that he won't run into you." "All right." Wanyan Shursan nodded and did not say anything else. That night, in the Feng Manor, after the banquet, Feng Jiu returned to the main courtyard. After settling everyone else, Leng Hua was about to go to Feng Jiu's place to tell her about the encounter with Wanyan Shursan today when he ran into his sister. "Sister, you haven't gone to rest yet?" Leng Hua looked at her. Seeing that she was holding something in her hands, he asked, "Are you delivering it to Master?" Master drank a lot tonight but didn't eat much. Coincidentally, I saw that there was some bird's nest stew in the kitchen, so I brought some over for Master," Leng Shuang said, then looked at him and asked, "Is there something you need?" "I have something to discuss with Master." "Then let's go together," Leng Shuang said, and walked with him to the backyard. When they arrived in the yard, Feng Jiu had just finished bathing and was sitting in the yard enjoying the cool air. Seeing them come in, her gaze fell on Leng Hua and asked, "Is something the matter?" "Master, today I ran into young Miss Wanyan's 13th uncle outside the manor," Leng Hua said, and told her what Wanyan Shursan had said outside. After hearing Leng Hua's words, Feng Jiu smiled. "My sister is probably anxious from waiting. That's fine. Tonight's night is pretty good, and they've all drunk some wine and slept. I'll go see them first." "Master, drink some bird's nest first," Leng Shuang said, and pushed the bird's nest in front of her. Hearing that it was bird's nest, Feng Jiu asked, "Is there any more in the kitchen?" Leng Shuang was startled, then said, "There is." "Then go get some. I'll bring it to my sister for supper." Feng Jiu gestured, then picked up the spoon and ate the bird's nest in front of her. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, the red-clothed woman quietly left the residence. Jun Jushang, who had been sitting on the roof, faintly caught a glimpse of that red figure as she walked out. He didn't even think about it and quietly followed her. Chapter 3453. Feng Jiu walked in the night. However, after a while, she felt that someone was following her. So, she changed her route to the Peach Blossom Cove. She led the person behind her around the city until she successfully shook him off. She stood in the dark and looked at the white figure in the night. She couldn't help but smile. She didn't expect Jun Jueshang to follow her. However, how could she let him follow her to see her sister at this time? She watched him walk around the city and head in the opposite direction. Then, she took a deep breath and walked towards the Peach Blossom Cove. Wanyan Xianhua was lying lazily in the Peach Blossom Cove. She looked at the night sky outside the window. Her hand was on her belly. Her face was soft and gentle. She was in a daze and looking at the night sky. It was easy for her to feel sleepy. Just as she was yawning and feeling sleepy, she heard Feng Jiu's voice from outside. "Sister." Her eyebrows twitched when she heard him call her sister. She got up and walked outside. She saw Feng Jiu, who was dressed in red, walking towards her with a smile. Wanyan Xianhua's beautiful eyes were angry when she saw her. "You finally came." "Sister, did you miss me?" Feng Jiu walked forward with a smile. His eyes fell on her bulging belly. His eyes lit up. "Your belly is so big." "Sister, it must be hard to be pregnant." Wanyan Xianhua stroked her belly. Her eyes were soft. Which woman doesn't have a hard time being pregnant? She held Feng Jiu's hand and said, "It's cold at night. Let's go inside and talk." Then, she led Feng Jiu inside. "Feng Jiu, you're here?" Wanyan Shursan appeared out of nowhere. When he saw Feng Jiu, he smiled and walked forward. "You finally came. I brought supper for you," Feng Jiu said. He smiled at him and motioned for him to come in. In the room, the three sat around the table. Fengjiu took out the bird's nest from the space and said to Wanyin Qianhua, "Sister, you're pregnant. You should eat more bird's nest. It'll be good for the child and you. We have some at home, but we haven't stewed them on the way here. Besides, you have some phoenix guards guarding here, so you eat whatever you want." Today, Uncle 13 said he was going out to find a cook, but he forgot about the kitchen when he saw you guys coming back, Wanyin Qianhua said with a smile, glancing at Wanyin Shisan, who was scooping out the bird's nest. Wanyin Shisan put a bowl of bird's nest in front of Qianhua and said to Fengjiu, "Originally, I wanted to let the phoenix guards guarding here arrange it. But since you're here, why don't you find one for me?" "Okay, I'll send 2 people over later," Fengjiu said and motioned for them to eat quickly. She held her cheek with one hand and looked at Wanyin Qianhua. After she finished eating the bird's nest, she smiled and said, "Sister, Jun Jueshang followed me all the way back. He found out when I came out just now. He followed me all the way, but I got rid of him." Hearing this, Wanyin Qianhua moved the bowl of bird's nest to the side. After wiping the corner of her mouth, she looked at Fengjiu. "I was just about to ask you, what are your plans? Why did you let him follow you? What if they bumped into each other here? Now that I'm like this, what if he sees me?" Chapter 3454. He lightly coughed and looked at the 2 of them. He was a little speechless as he said, "You 2 women are talking about forcing yourself in front of a man like me. Don't you think it's not too good?" Hearing this, the 2 of them looked at each other and smiled. "Then why don't you go and rest first? We still have a long chat to go." Seeing this, Wanyin Shisan nodded. "That's good. You 2 haven't seen each other for a long time. Have a good chat. I'm going to sleep first." Saying this, he stood up and waved his hand as he walked out. That night, Fengjiu and Wanyin Shisan chatted for the entire night. When the sky gradually brightened, Fengjiu left the Peach Blossom Cove and went back to the Feng Manor. When she returned to the manor's courtyard, she saw Jun Jueshang in white sitting in her courtyard, drinking wine. Seeing this, she lightly smiled and asked, "Why did you come to my place to drink wine so early in the morning?" Jun Jueshang looked at her and asked, "You went to see her?" "Who?" Fengjiu pretended to be ignorant and asked, "Aside from Wanyin Qianhua, who else could it be?" Jun Jueshang said. He looked at her and asked, "She's here, right? Where is she? How long do you plan to hide her?" Hearing this, Fengjiu lightly smiled and said, "That's not right. My sister is not someone I can hide from." She walked up to the table and sat down. She smiled and said, "It's just that she still doesn't want to see you. Even if you go and see her, it's useless." "So, she really is here?" Jun Jueshang's eyes slightly moved. She lightly replied. Her clear eyes were filled with a smile. "You can't find her. Even if you find her, you might not be able to see her. Stay here for now. It's not time yet." Jun Jueshang held the wine cup in his hand. His voice carried a trace of anger. "She still doesn't want to see me? Who was the one who did something wrong?" Hearing this, Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and said leisurely, "You're the one who took advantage of my sister. After all, you're really old. She's the only one who likes you. If it was someone else, it might not be the case." Jun Jueshang choked. He didn't know what to say. He glanced at her and drank the wine in his cup. "I haven't slept all night. I'm going back to my room to rest. Help yourself." She stood up and yawned as she walked into her room. Jun Jueshang watched her leave. He calmly withdrew his gaze and sat in the courtyard for a while. Then he stood up and walked out of the mansion. Where would Fengjiu hide them? Another month passed, and the Feng Manor had already helped Fengjiu choose a wedding date. During this time, aside from staying in the manor, she went to Peach Blossom Cove to see her elder sister. During these days in the manor, Yi Jing and the children often accompanied her, so the days didn't seem boring. However, after a month, she began to miss Xian Yuanmo's. After choosing a good date, she sent him a message to tell him the date. She just didn't know when he would return. While she was in the courtyard thinking, Jun Jueshang and Guan Shilin were playing chess in the garden. Guan Shilin held a chess piece and thought for a long time before placing it down. However, Jun Jueshang only glanced at it before placing down another piece. Immediately after, when it was Guan Shilin's turn, he frowned. Chapter 3455. As he spoke, he paused and asked, "Do you have any recommendations?" Guan Shilin was thinking about a chess piece when he heard Gu Shijio's words. He asked, "A quiet place? There are many in the city. Have you been to all of them?" He stared at the chess piece and thought, which one is best? I've been to all the famous places. The scenery is ordinary, very similar to many towns. As he spoke, his voice was slow and indifferent, as if he was chatting casually. No one could detect any hidden meaning in his words. Guan Shilin was thinking about the chess pieces, so he didn't pay attention to Zhang Heng's words. Instead, he followed Zhang Heng's words and said, "There's a place you haven't been to before. The scenery there is amazing, but it's not in this city." As he spoke, he put down a chess piece, then raised his head and smiled. "It's your turn." Junju Shang glanced at the chessboard, then calmly picked up a chess piece and put it down. He asked, "Oh, there's such a place? Where is it? How come I've never heard of it?" "The Peach Blossom Cove. The scenery there is amazing. Peach blossoms bloom all year round, and the fragrance of the flowers fills the nose. It's Xiao Jio's place. In the past, the peach blossoms only bloomed in March. After Xiao Jio took over, she had people plant peach blossoms everywhere. Therefore, the peach blossoms are all year round. Everyone who comes here will go to the Peach Blossom Cove. It's especially suitable for couples who are in love." When he said this, Guan Shilin couldn't help but be startled. He raised his head and looked at Junju Shang, who was sitting opposite him. For a moment, the smile on his face was a little embarrassed. It's over. He actually accidentally mentioned the Peach Blossom Cove. Wanyan Qianhua lived there. If he went there, then Peach Blossom Cove? Junju Shang murmured these 3 words. He looked at Guan Shilin and asked, "Where is it?" After seeing Guan Shilin's expression, Junju Shang stood up indifferently. "It's okay, I'll find it." As he spoke, he turned around and walked out. The people in the residence wouldn't say anything, but outside the residence, as long as he asked someone, he would naturally know where the Peach Blossom Cove was. Seeing Junju Shang turn and leave, Guan Shilin couldn't help but feel anxious. He was worried that he had caused trouble, so he hurried to Fengjio's courtyard. Xiao Jio. Fengjio was lying on the soft couch, basking in the sun. When he heard his brother's voice, he slowly opened his eyes and asked, "Brother, what is it?" "Xiao Jio, I was playing chess with Junju Shang just now. Who would have thought that he would ask me a few questions while I was thinking about chess? I was careless and told him about the Peach Blossom Cove. He is now outside. I'm afraid he is going to look for the Peach Blossom Cove." After hearing his brother's words, Fengjio chuckled. "It's okay. My sister's belly is already more than 4 months old. I don't think he would dare to do anything to my sister." As she spoke, she sat up and smiled. "However, I still have to go and take a look. After all, the way these 2 people interact is a little strange. Moreover, I'm also curious. When he sees my sister's bulging belly, how will he react?" Thus, Fengjio followed her out and went to the Peach Blossom Cove. Chapter 3456. When Junju Shang arrived at the Peach Blossom Cove and saw the words on it, his gaze involuntarily fell on the faintly discernible peach blossom forest. When he arrived here, his heart inexplicably tensed up. Was she in there? Why is she hiding here? How could she hide for so long? As he walked forward, he felt that someone was watching him from the shadows. He only glanced at his surroundings before walking in. The Phoenix guards in the shadows watched Junju Shang walk in. When they recalled that their master had sent them a message not to stop him, they retracted their gazes and no longer stared at the person who walked in. The outside of the Peach Blossom Forest was open, but there were some places inside that were not open. Those were private places, and, compared to the environment outside, it was more quiet and secluded. Junju Shang walked forward. He walked through the Peach Blossom Forest, and when he was about to walk forward, he could not help but stop. Under a peach blossom tree in front of him, Wanyin Qianhua, who was dressed in red like the sun, was lying on her side on a soft couch. Her body was covered with a blanket, and her hair was not tied up. Instead, it was casually let loose. Her beautiful face looked very serene and gentle at this moment, because she was sleeping soundly. The surroundings were very quiet. When a gentle breeze blew, the peach blossom petals on the tree fell onto her body, her hair, and her face. The scene of peach blossoms fluttering in the wind, and her sleeping soundly under the peach blossom tree, was so beautiful at this moment that he could not take his eyes off her. He stood quietly and watched. He did not know how much time had passed, until she lazily moved her body and turned over slightly. The blanket covering her body slid to the ground. He looked at the woman who was sleeping with her back facing him. He could not believe that she could sleep so soundly in such a place. When he thought of the fact that the secret guards were watching every corner of this place, his face darkened. In other words, this woman's sleeping appearance was also seen by the secret guards who were hiding in the shadows. When he thought of this, the aura on his body could not help but turn cold. When Wanyin Shi-san, who was walking over, saw the white figure standing in the middle of the peach blossom forest, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. He opened his eyes wide and stared at the person standing there. He couldn't believe it and exclaimed in his heart, "Junju Shang? How did he find this place?" His footsteps, which were originally prepared to step forward, could not help but lighten. He retreated step by step, suddenly retreating backwards. Junju Shang, the patriarch of the Xiao Yao sect, whom Qianhua Chang had raped, had come here. What should they do? How would he deal with Qianhua? If he found out that Qianhua was pregnant with his child, wouldn't that be? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but stop. She looked forward and saw that the blanket on Qianhua's body had fallen to the ground. Fortunately, she was sleeping with her back facing Junju Shang. Therefore, Junju Shang couldn't see her bulging belly. However, if he walked forward or if she suddenly turned over and woke up, wouldn't he see it? Chapter 34:57. Wanyin Shi-san was stunned. His eyes were wide open, and he opened his mouth to warn Wanyin Qianhua, who was comfortably lying down and caressing her belly. However, Fengjiu, who had appeared behind him, reached out and sealed his acupoint, making him unable to speak. Fengjiu came to Wanyin Shi-san's side and made a gesture to him to keep quiet. Only then did he release his acupoint and look at Junju Shang in front of him with anticipation. Junju Shang, who was originally prepared to walk forward, was stunned once again. He stared at Wanyin Qianhua's slightly bulging belly in disbelief. His face no longer had its usual calm and indifferent expression. There was only shock and disbelief. His entire person seemed to be stupefied, and his mind was blank. In his eyes, there was only Wanyin Qianhua, who was caressing her slightly bulging belly. He was not a young boy. Even if he had never been married, he knew what it meant when a woman's belly grew bigger. But how was this possible? He had only spent one night with her. How could she have gotten pregnant in just one night? At this moment, his breathing became chaotic. Because of this, Wanyin Qianhua, who was originally lying down lazily, immediately sensed the presence of an unfamiliar aura. "Who is it?" she coldly shouted. Her fingers pinched a falling peach blossom petal and threw it towards the source of the aura. At the same time, she jumped up and looked over. However, when she saw who it was, her eyes couldn't help but flash with a trace of panic. "Junju Shang? Why is it you?" Wanyin Qianhua didn't expect him to suddenly come here. Audiobook clearly said that he couldn't see her. So why did he suddenly come here? And he even knew that she was here? Junju Shang was stunned when he saw her big belly. So he couldn't even dodge the peach blossom petal that she shot at him. That seemingly harmless peach blossom petal, after being injected with spiritual energy, became sharp. Just like that, it quickly cut his sleeve and cut his arm. Scarlet red blood seeped out and dyed his white robe red. However, he didn't seem to feel pain. When he saw Wanyin Qianhua jump up like that, he was so scared that his face turned pale and his heart suddenly jumped. In the blink of an eye, He was by her side. His pale face was clearly ashen as he looked at her. "You're actually pregnant." Seeing him arrive in front of her in an instant, Wanyin Qianhua's heart panicked. She forced herself to calm. "So what if I'm pregnant? It's not yours." "What did you say?" Jun Jushang's originally ashen face immediately darkened after hearing her words. His entire body was filled with a terrifying aura. His eyes were firmly fixed on Wanyin Qianhua. He only felt that his perfect self-control was thrown to the back of his head by her light words at this moment. Wanyin Qianhua, who originally wanted to say it again, was terrified when she met his murderous gaze. She took a deep breath and calmed her panicked heart. She moved her gaze away and calmed herself down. At the same time, she calmly stepped back. Who knew that she would accidentally touch the foot of a soft couch? Her body lost balance and fell backwards. She was shocked and cried out in alarm. She instinctively protected her belly. She thought that she would fall down, but who knew that in the next moment, Jun Jushang would hug her tightly. Chapter 3458. Jun Jushang was also frightened when he saw her startled appearance. His heart was in a mess. Even the hand that was holding her trembled slightly. It was said that it was easy for a woman to have a miscarriage in the first few months of pregnancy, and she had to be careful. God knew that when he saw her almost fall down with such a big belly, he was so scared that his face turned pale. He was prepared to scold her, but when he saw her pale face, he couldn't say a word. Feng Jiao and Wanyin Shisan watched them not far away with interest. Looking at the two of them getting along, Wanyin Shisan lowered his voice and asked, "Is this okay? We really don't need to go up? Nothing will happen, right?" Feng Jiao rolled his eyes and said, "Why should we go up? Jun Jushang is here. Are you worried that something will happen to my sister? Don't worry, it's okay. Let them get along. You don't want your grandnephew to be born without a father, do you?" Hearing her words, Wanyin Shisan looked at the two people in front of him with complicated eyes. He was still a little worried. After all, Qianhua had raped Jun Jushang. If he didn't have any feelings for her, even if she was pregnant with his child, he wouldn't be soft-hearted. However, looking at the situation now, it seemed that there was a chance. "Let me go." Wanyin Qianhua came to her senses and said in a cold voice. She struggled to get out of his arms. "Don't move." Jun Jushang shouted in a low voice. He was afraid that it was too fierce and would scare her, so his voice sounded more helpless. He looked at her struggling, thought for a while, and finally let go of her hand. However, when Wanyin Qianhua was about to escape, he reached out and grabbed her hand. "Sit down, let's talk." He grabbed her wrist and let her sit down on the soft couch. At this moment, his face was serious and solemn. Wanyin Qianhua hesitated. Seeing that she couldn't escape, she sat down, but her hands were still subconsciously protecting her abdomen. She stared at him vigilantly and said, "What do you want to talk about? Let me tell you, you were the one who took advantage of me when I forced myself on you that night. Don't even think about bringing that up to me again." The corners of Jun Jushang's mouth twitched when he heard those words. He looked at Wanyin Qianhua, who was forcing himself to remain calm, and asked, "Did I take advantage of you? Weren't you the one who took advantage of this monarch? Let's not talk about how you forced yourself on this monarch, but you actually got pregnant with this monarch's child and then ran away without a trace. If I hadn't come looking for you, were you planning to hide this child from me?" The more he spoke, the more dangerous his tone became. Even his eyes narrowed. He knew very well that if he hadn't tricked Guanxilin today, she would have hidden the child after giving birth. He wouldn't even know that she was pregnant or even gave birth to a child. Thinking of this, his face couldn't help but darken. "Look carefully, this child is in my belly. This is my child. What does it have to do with you?" Wanyin Qianhua snorted coldly. Although she felt guilty, she didn't want to lose her momentum. Hearing that, Jun Jushang's eyes gradually deepened. He looked at her and asked in a low voice, "Then this monarch wants to ask, how did this child come to be in your belly?" Wanyin Qianhua was stunned when she heard those words. How did it come to be in her belly? Of course, it was because of that night. Chapter 3459. Hearing her scolding and looking at her angry expression, Junju Shang said calmly, "You know whether I'm a beast or not." Feng Jiao and Wanyan Shi-san were stunned. Their eyes were full of surprise. They didn't expect this. This unlocked Junju Shang was a man who was cold on the outside but passionate on the inside. How did the child end up in Wanyan Qianhua's stomach? Was there a need to ask? Which adult man or woman didn't know what was going on? He actually had the face to ask this seriously? It was unbelievable. Wanyan Qianhua took a deep breath and looked at the face in front of her. Finally, she lay down on the soft couch and closed her eyes. "You can go. I don't welcome you here. Don't appear in front of me. We're talking about something," Junju Shang said, and looked at her with her eyes closed. His eyes couldn't help but fall on her stomach. His eyes flashed. For the first time, a strange feeling rose in his heart. There was a child in her stomach. Moreover, the child was his blood. This feeling was really strange. It made him look forward to it. He was happy. He was also a loss. "Don't stare at my stomach." Wanyan Qianhua was angry. She angrily opened her eyes and glared at him. Even if she closed her eyes, she knew that his eyes had been fixed on her stomach. That feeling made her very uncomfortable. Being shouted at, Junju Shang looked away awkwardly. He coughed and looked at the peach tree in front of him. He was silent for a while. As if he had thought it over carefully, he looked away from the peach tree and looked at Wanyan Qianhua. "Let's get married." Wanyan Qianhua was stunned when she heard this. She asked, "What did you say?" "Let's get married." He looked at her. When he said this for the second time, he didn't find it difficult to say it the first time. Moreover, after he said it, he felt that it was a good idea. He thought that he would be happy to marry her. After all, she was the only woman who had moved his heart in so many years. Even if he didn't understand his feelings for her, he was very clear about what he wanted at this moment. Getting married and giving her and their child a complete family. This was what he wanted. However, he didn't understand a woman's thoughts at all. Because of this, Wanyan Qianhua regained his senses when he heard his words. Then, he flew into a rage. He picked up the fruit on the small table beside him and threw it at him. "Get out! Get out of Peach Blossom Cove! Get out!" Junju Shang didn't understand why he was so angry. Feng Jiao and Wanyan Shi-san, who were hiding not far from them, were also frightened. Feng Jiao came out. He didn't hide anymore. He rushed to her and comforted her. "Sister, you are pregnant. You can't be so angry. You have to take care of the child." Wanyan Qianhua took a deep breath. She tried to calm down. However, she heard Junju Shang's voice again. "You are pregnant. Don't get angry so easily. It will affect the baby." When Junju Shang heard Feng Jiao's words, he was also shocked. He hurriedly tried to persuade her. However, who knew that it would be better if he didn't say anything? "Get out! Get out!" Chapter 3460. Seeing that the situation was not good, Wanyan Shi-san hurriedly pulled Junju Shang away. He didn't dare to leave him there and make Wanyan Qianhua angry. Although he didn't understand why Junju Shang suddenly became angry. After Wanyan Shi-san pulled Junju Shang away, Feng Jiao let out a sigh of relief and sat down. "Sister, why are you angry with him? He is a fool. I guess he doesn't even know why you are angry." After seeing them leave and hearing Feng Jiao's words, Wanyan Qianhua gradually calmed down. Because she was pregnant, her temper became easily irritable. Therefore, after hearing Junju Shang's words, she couldn't suppress her anger. In particular, she also knew that she couldn't get angry so easily when she was pregnant. However, she couldn't help it. "Why did he come here?" Wanyan Qianhua looked at Feng Jiao and asked. After thinking carefully, she shouldn't have told Junju Shang that she was here at this time. Hearing this, Feng Jiao sighed helplessly. "Since he knew that I came to see you, he secretly searched everywhere in the city. However, he didn't find any news about you. So, he thought of my brother. I was in the courtyard. I heard my brother hurriedly ran to me and told me that Junju Shang took the opportunity to trick him when he was playing chess with him. He accidentally told him that the Peach Blossom Dock was my place and the scenery was first class. Therefore, he found this place. After I heard about it, I hurriedly rushed over. Listening to her words, Wanyin Qianhua's face became darker. You are actually playing tricks. You are really promising. He is not an ordinary person. You can't hide the fact that you are here from him for long. You will meet sooner or later. So, I thought that since he knows, I will let you meet. Who knew that he would say that he wants to marry you? Speaking of this, Fengjiu couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. For a woman, especially a woman as proud as his sister, it was absolutely impossible for her to marry him because she was pregnant with his child. Jun Jushang said that he wanted to marry her at this time. Anyone would think that he wanted to marry her because she was pregnant with his child. An ordinary woman would have been overjoyed to hear that the patriarch of the Xiao Yao school wanted to marry her. However, the patriarch of the Xiao Yao school was her elder sister, Wanyin Qianhua. Jun Jushang's words were a humiliation to her. It would have been strange if she didn't fly into a rage. He wants to take my child away, said with an ugly face Shang's eyes. She couldn't help but reach her hands to her belly. She touched her belly and her eyes became firm. This child is my child, my. He wants to take him away from me. Hearing this, Fengjiu was startled. Then he smiled and said, Sister, you misunderstood. He doesn't want to take your child away from you. For a person like Jun Jushang, it was absolutely impossible for him to marry a woman for a child. He said that to her sister because the woman who was pregnant with his child was her, Wanyin Qianhua. However, Wanyin Qianhua didn't listen to Fengjiu at this time. She felt a little insecure. She felt that if Jun Jushang wanted to take her child away from her, she might not be able to beat him. Therefore, she thought for a while and looked at Fengjiu. She asked worriedly, Jiu, do you think I should take this opportunity to run away and hide? I am really worried that he will take my child away. Chapter 3461. Fengjiu and Wanyin Qianhua were talking. On the other side, Jun Jushang, who had been pulled outside by Wanyin Shisan, was a little startled. He glanced at Wanyin Shisan beside him and asked, Did I say something wrong just now? Wanyin Shisan couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable when he thought that his niece had raped him, and now he was facing Jun Jushang. After hearing his words, he quickly said, I don't know, but looking at Qianhua, you must have said something that angered him. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw him standing under the peach tree in a daze. Seeing that he didn't speak for a long time, Wanyin Shisan wanted to leave first. After all, standing next to him made him feel inexplicably guilty. However, just as he took a step away, he heard Jun Jushang's voice. Did you bring her back here? Jun Jushang suddenly came back to his senses and looked at Wanyin Shisan. Seeing that he couldn't leave, Wanyin Shisan smiled. Yes. At that time, because she said that she wanted to come back here, she asked me to accompany her. At the same time, I also went back to the Wanyin clan to take a look. But isn't Fengjiu coming back to get married? So we also came here. Then he quickly said, But I didn't know that she was pregnant with your child. Jun Jushang didn't speak. He just looked back for a long time. Then he said, You go and see her. Don't let her have any miscarriage. Ask Fengjiu to give her some medicine to prevent miscarriage. Okay, then do as you wish. As Wanyin Shisan spoke, he slipped away and went back. Although he was used to being unrestrained, he still felt pressure when facing Jun Jushang, the leader of the Xiaoyao sect. Moreover, he had taken his niece away. If he was held responsible, he wouldn't be able to say anything even if he had 10 mouths. Back inside, Wanyin Shisan looked back and said to Fengjiu that Jun Jushang doesn't seem to want to leave. What should we do? Are we really going to let him stay? As he spoke, he couldn't help but look at Wanyin Qianhua. Fengjiu smiled, his eyes flashing with the light of watching a good show. He said, I just told Big Sis to let him stay. Anyway, my sister doesn't have anyone to order around, so why not just treat him as her subordinate? I think he would be happy to do so. I don't want to see him again today. I'm going back to my room to rest. Wanyin Qianhua said as he got up and walked toward the courtyard. Seeing this, Fengjiu smiled and said something to Wanyin Shisan. Then He walked towards Jun Shang, who was standing under the tree, and asked, "What do you plan to do now?" "Marry her and give her child a complete family," Jun Shang said, and looked at Feng Jiu. "Aren't you going to get married soon? You've already picked a date. Why don't we get married together?" Puffed. Hearing this, Feng Jiu couldn't help but laugh. "My sister agreed to marry you? This person is really confident. Is he sure that his sister won't marry anyone else but him?" When Jun Shang heard this, his face sank. "If she doesn't marry me, who else does she want to marry?" "That's hard to say. My sister is such an outstanding person. She won't marry you just because she's pregnant with your child. She's not the kind of woman who cares about what the world thinks of her. Tricks that work on ordinary women are all useless on her." Chapter 3462. "Why?" he asked, puzzled. Wanyan Xianhua had been his for a long time, and she was pregnant with his child. Furthermore, he knew that she liked him. Since that was the case, why didn't she agree when he said that he wanted to marry her? Why didn't she want to marry him when he wanted to marry her? Feng Jiu looked at the man who was tilting his head and looking at her with a puzzled expression. Hearing his strange words, she sighed softly in her heart. He was yet another person who didn't know anything about relationships. "You'll have to figure this out yourself. Some things can only be understood, but not expressed in words." She waved her hand and said, "Since you already know about my sister's pregnancy, then I'll tell you some things to take note of. You have to be more careful, and don't make her angry at the slightest thing." She glanced at him and said, "A woman's temper is not very good when she's pregnant, but it's easy to affect the fetus if you lose your temper and get angry. So you have to take note of everything." Jun Shang listened attentively. He stood with his hands behind his back, listening to Feng Jiu's words. Only after she had told him some things to take note of did she leave. Looking at her leaving figure, he thought for a moment and walked back. He wanted to see what that woman was doing. Feng Jiu stepped down from the Peach Blossom Cove and walked leisurely towards the city. Her sister had Wanyan San and the kitchen maid to take care of her. Now that Jun Shang was there, she didn't have to worry. But now, as the days passed, the day of her wedding was getting closer and closer, but Xin Yuan Mose still hadn't returned. She wondered where he was now. As she walked, she thought about things. Suddenly, her footsteps paused. She raised her eyes and looked in a certain direction, only to see that the mountain path in the forest was quiet and secluded. She didn't see anyone else. "Since you're here, why don't you come out?" Feng Jiu asked. Her gaze fell on a certain direction until she saw a figure walk out from behind a tree. A trace of surprise flashed across her eyes. "It's you." Feng Jiu looked at the person in surprise. It was Yi Xiran, whom she hadn't seen for a few years. "TSK, you still remember me?" Yi Xiran crossed his arms over his chest. Seeing that he had been discovered, he stopped hiding and strode toward her, his complicated gaze landing on her. He hadn't seen her for a few years, and he didn't expect her to grow to such a powerful level. Back then, he wasn't her opponent, and now he had to look up to her. Indeed, only that man had the qualifications to stand by her side. Looking at the person in front of her, Feng Jiu smiled. After a few years, she knew that this person didn't have any ill intentions towards her. At least, he wasn't her enemy. What's more, she no longer cared about the small matters of the past. Naturally, her smile became more sincere. "Since you're here, then stay for the wedding banquet." Ishiran fell silent for a moment before asking, "Why didn't he come back with you? How'd you been these past few years?" "Mose? He still has some things to do, so he'll be here later." Feng Jiu smiled and said, "I've been living quite well these past few years. I'm just about to go back home. Let's go. I'll introduce you to someone in the residence." Ishiran hesitated for a moment before following her into the city. The two walked leisurely as if they were taking a leisurely stroll, occasionally chatting. Chapter 3463. "I'll probably stay here for a while." Feng Jiu smiled. "Oh right, you might not know this, but I'm already the lord of this world. I even connected the upper and lower realms with the immortal path. If you're interested in the future, You can also go to the upper realms to take a look and gain experience. Ishiran was taken aback. He lost his composure and exclaimed, "WH, what did you say? You become the lord of the lower realms? When did this happen?" "Some time ago, I think. When we returned," she said nonchalantly. "Now that I'm a divine king, I naturally have the ability to dominate this world. The 4 guardians of Heaven's Corner have already submitted to me." As she walked, she plucked a leaf from the roadside and played with it. "Back then, we still used the immortal ascension stairs to go to the upper realms, but we don't need to anymore. However, the news hasn't spread, so not many people know about it." Ishiran listened in a daze, completely at a loss for words. He knew she had become much stronger, but he didn't expect her strength to be so inconceivably strong. What kind of existence was a god king? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Swish! Suddenly, a cold arrow shot toward them. Ishiran was so stunned that he forgot to react. Fengjiu heard the faint sound and raised a brow. He glanced over and waved his hand. A gust of air rushed out and repelled the cold arrow. As the cold arrow shot back, a muffled groan faintly came from the darkness. The smell of blood permeated the mountain path. The next moment, several dozen black figures darted out and surrounded the two. "Where did you get into trouble?" Fengjiu glanced sideways at Ishiran. Then his clear eyes swept over those people. Ishiran returned to his senses and glanced at the black-clothed men. His expression darkened. Truly persistent. The next moment, his figure shot out, and a cold light streaked toward the black-clothed men. "No matter what, you're an old friend of mine. An old friend that I haven't seen for a long time has been ambushed. Moreover, it's in my territory. If I were to stand there and watch, wouldn't be right." Fengjiu chuckled and plucked the leaves from the branches in his hand. With a wave of his hand, the leaves shot towards the black-clothed men. The leaves, which contained hidden energy, turned into hidden weapons. Each leaf carried a sharp and austere aura. Wherever the leaves passed, the black-clothed men also fell down with miserable screams. Some of the black-clothed men tried to block it, but they were unable to block the small leaf. The smell of blood filled the mountain path. As more and more corpses appeared on the ground, the black-clothed men were shocked. They looked at the red-clothed Fengjiu in shock. However, before they could recover their wits and flee, they fell to the ground with wide eyes. Ishiran turned around and looked at Fengjiu. When he saw her smiling at him, his gaze couldn't help but flicker. He wiped his sword clean and put it away. "Do you need help?" Fengjiu asked. "No need. I can handle it myself." As Ishiran spoke, he glanced at the corpses on the ground and decided that he would uproot this faction when he returned. Chapter 3464. Inside the Feng Manor, Guan Shilin was blaming himself for spilling the beans. He waited in the manor for a long time without seeing Fengjiu return. Just as he was about to return to his own manor, he saw 2 people walk in. "Xiaojiu, you're finally back. How was it? Did he really go to Peach Blossom Cove?" Guan Shilin asked. Just as he finished speaking, he saw someone following him. Focusing his eyes, he couldn't help but be startled. "It's you?" Ishiran nodded slightly, which could be considered a greeting. In truth, he knew most of the people at Fengjiu's side. "Brother, don't worry, it's fine." She smiled and asked, "You've been waiting here the entire time?" I was worried that if the 2 of them met, something might happen. "I was worried, so I didn't go home yet," Guan Shilin said. Hearing this, Fengjiu said, "Then you go and take a look first. Although our 2 residences are close, sister-in-law is at home with the child. You can't stay here all day. I originally wanted to go back and take a look, but since you said it's fine, I'll go back first and come back later." Saying this, he nodded at Ishiran and left first. "Master." Lunghua walked over from nearby. After bowing to Fengjiu, his gaze landed on Ishiran and he warmly smiled. "Young master." Ishiran looked over and saw that Lunghua's cultivation level was above his. He couldn't help but exclaim in shock. "How did your strength increase so quickly?" Lunghua warmly smiled and said, "Because my master is the ghost doctor. It was a simple sentence, but it carried a boundless meaning. Because his master was the ghost doctor, his strength increased so quickly. Because his master was the ghost doctor, the pride in his tone and expression naturally flowed out. Hearing this, a complicated look flashed through Ishiran's eyes. That's right. They were Fengjiu's people, so how could they be ordinary? Longhua, go and have the kitchen prepare a few dishes and send them to the garden. I'll treat him to a drink, Fengjiu said, motioning for him to leave. Yes, sir, Longhua replied. He bowed slightly and left. She led Ishiran to the garden. Not long after they sat down, Dufan walked in with a few people. When he saw Fengjiu in the garden pavilion, Dufan smiled and called out, Mistress, Sir Gu is here. Fengjiu was stunned. He looked up and saw Gu Xiangyi standing beside Dufan. When she saw him, she smiled and asked, Why are you here? Have you taken care of everything in the family? Gu Xiangyi walked forward and bowed to her before saying, Everything in the family has been taken care of. My father is in charge of some matters. I knew you were preparing for the wedding, so I thought I'd come over to see if there was anything I could help with. It's good that you're here, Fengjiu said with a smile. Sit. This is Ishiran. He's also here to attend the wedding. After the two got to know each other, they sat down and chatted. Dufan retreated. Not long after, a servant girl came up with food and wine. When evening came, Fengjiu saw that the two were a little drunk, so he had someone take them away to rest. When she returned to the courtyard, she asked someone to prepare a bath for her. She leaned lazily against the bathtub and closed her eyes. When she heard the sound of the door being pushed open, she said, Lung Shuang, the water is a little cold. Bring in some hot water. Chapter 3465. She saw Xianyuan Mose, dressed in a black robe, slowly walk over. As he walked, he untied his belt, which made her a little stunned. Xianyuan Mose took off his robes and stepped into the large bathtub naked. He sat down in front of her and reached out to flick the water. The water droplets splashed onto her face, and his low, magnetic laughter traveled into her ears. It's not like you haven't seen it before. Why are you so stunned? His low voice carried a happy smile. It was clear that her expression pleased him. She saw that his palms were filled with spiritual energy. In the next moment, the water that was gradually cooling became warm again. Traces of steam rose from the water and filled the space between the two. Fengjiu recovered and a smile appeared on her face. Why didn't you tell me you were coming back? I was still thinking today and didn't know when you would come back. As she said this, he reached out and pulled her into his embrace. She was naked from head to toe. Being held in his arms like this, the feeling of their skin touching made her feel that the temperature of the bathtub seemed to be hotter than before. Although she was a little shy in her heart, she did not struggle or wriggle. She just quietly leaned in his arms and let him hold her. I wanted to give you a surprise when I came back, so I didn't tell you. As Xianyuan Mose spoke, his hands under the water gently caressed her waist. I've already asked my father's side to prepare, and I've also instructed people to decorate the manor. I heard them say that we can't meet before the wedding, so I thought of secretly coming over to see you before leaving. You don't plan on staying here for a few more days? Fengjiu was slightly surprised. Aren't you tired from running back and forth? Hearing this, Xianyuan Mose's lips slightly hooked. You don't want me to leave? As he spoke, his hands moved up her waist. Don't mess around. I'm talking to you about serious matters. Fengjiu glared at him with a red face and pulled his mischievous hands down. Xianyuan Mose gave a low laugh. I came back to accompany you for a few days this time. Then I have to leave. I have to go back and prepare for the wedding. I can't leave everything to the servants. As he spoke, he handed her the towel beside the bathtub. Help me wipe my back. Fengjiu took it and then moved from his embrace to his back. Xianyuan Mose leaned against the bathtub and said, You can stay here for a while. I'll come pick you up when the time comes. Fengjiu helped him scrub his back as she said, I reckon that when we get married, there will be a lot of people who will come to congratulate us. When I entered the residence, I saw Gu Xiangyi and Ishiran also come. Xianyuan Mose said with narrowed eyes. And then, Gu Xiangyi happened to find out that his family was in trouble when we came back, so I helped him out in passing. After he took care of his family's matters, he came over to see if there was anything he needed help with. As for Ishiran, I just saw him today. The two chatted idly until the water gradually cooled. Xianyuan Mose turned around and stood up. He said to Fengjiu, "The water's cold. Don't soak anymore." As he spoke, he stepped out of the bathtub and used a large towel to wipe the water off his body. Then he scooped Fengjiu out of the bathtub and wrapped her in a large towel before walking to the bed. Chapter 3466. Their warm lips pressed against each other, and the passionate kiss made her a little breathless. However, just as she was about to push him away, he had already laid down beside her. At the same time, he reached out to pull up the blanket to cover her. With a pair of large hands, she rolled into his embrace. "Agio, I'm really looking forward to the day of our wedding." Hearing his words, Fengjiu's heart was burning with passion. She reached out to wrap her arms around his waist and said with a smile, "You've waited for so many years. Now that the day of our wedding is right in front of us, you're in such a hurry." "I'm in a hurry to make you my woman," he said in a low voice. Because he had rushed all the way back, he was a little sleepy. Now that he was holding her in his arms, he gradually closed his eyes and fell asleep. Feeling his breathing slow, as if he had fallen asleep, Fengjiu raised her head slightly to take a look, then quietly nestled in his arms. The next day, Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu went to see the elders of the Feng family together to discuss the marriage. Then the two slowly walked in the garden, enjoying this rare moment of peace. Leng Hua walked over from the path. When he saw the two of them, he bowed and said, "Master, Ning Lang and the others have arrived. They're currently going to the front yard to see the old master and the others. It seems that they've also received the news." Fengjiu chuckled and walked into the pavilion with Xianyuan Mose while saying to Leng Hua, "Let them come over later. Speaking of which, I haven't seen them for many years." "Yes," Leng Hua responded and then retreated. "How, or hasn't been running around in front of you recently?" Xianyuan Mose asked. After the maidservant served tea and pastries, he poured a cup of tea for Fengjiu. Fengjiu picked up a piece of pastry and ate it. He smiled and said, "Ever since I came back, Hao-Er has been called by my father and the others. In name, they're giving him pointers on cultivation and martial arts. In reality, there are also children as young as him in the family. Now that they see him, they all like him very much. Moreover, my brother often brings his son over to accompany Hao-Er. Throughout the day, I probably only see him when we eat." The two of them chatted, drank tea, and ate pastries. Not long after, they heard footsteps approaching. Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose looked in the direction of the voice and saw a few men in luxurious clothes with extraordinary bearing walking over while chatting and laughing. Xianyuan Mose glanced at them, then looked away indifferently. He picked up the teapot and poured some hot tea for Fengjiu. He also knew those people. He didn't expect them to become more mature after so many years. Fengjiu also sized them up. Compared to their youthful appearances a few years ago, they were more mature now. Moreover, each of them had a more outstanding bearing. Well, they came from extraordinary backgrounds and had high standards. After a few years, it was normal for them to become more outstanding. Thinking of this, she smiled and said, "We haven't seen each other for a few years. It seems that all of you are doing well." Song Ming, Ning Lang, and the others looked at Fengjiu. They saw that she was still dressed in red and dazzling. She sat there lazily and casually, but exuded an extraordinary noble aura. They couldn't help but be moved. When he had first met her, she was full of mischievous and cunning aura. Now, as time passed, the mischievous and cunning aura on her body had been restrained. What replaced it was only elegance and indifference. Chapter 3467. However, although her aura had changed, her appearance was still as dazzling and captivating as ever. Looking at this woman who was both a teacher and a friend to them, they adjusted their expressions and stepped forward to cup their hands in greeting. Greetings, Yama Lord, Ghost Doctor. With Xianyuan Mo's and Fengjiu's current stature, they were too insignificant. As they grew up, they naturally couldn't call Fengjiu by her name like they used to. It was a little offensive. Although they still preferred to call her Fengjiu, they felt a little helpless because of the warnings from their elders before they left. Hearing how they addressed her, Fengjiu raised her eyebrows and said with a half-smile, "You guys are becoming distant with me. You used to call me by my name. What's wrong? What are you doing with your hands and feet tied?" Hearing her words, they blushed and couldn't help but look at each other. In the end, Songming stepped forward and said with a smile, "It's not that we want to be distant with you, but when we left, the elders in our families told us to control our temper and not be too impudent in front of you. Furthermore, when we came over, we heard from Lung Hua that you're already the ruler of this world. This made us even more afraid to call you by your name." Hearing this, Fengjiu laughed softly. "I didn't think that there would be a day when you guys wouldn't dare." Looking at their expressions, she seemed to be very happy. "All right, it's not like I don't know what kind of people you are. There's no need to put on an act in front of me. Just do what's comfortable. There's no need for so many rules." When they heard this, their faces broke into smiles. "We're relieved to hear that. Fengjiu, you're too much. You and the Yama Lord are getting married, and you didn't even send us an invitation. You didn't even inform us. If we hadn't heard the news, we wouldn't have known that you were back." Luo Fei said, "There were a lot of things to do this time, so I didn't send out the invitations. Moreover, I also know that once the news spreads, you will also come. It's the same whether I have an invitation or not." She chuckled and said to Lung Hua, "Set up a small table in this garden and invite Gu Xiangyi and the others over for a gathering." "Okay," Lung Hua responded, then turned around and left. "Fengjiu, how long do you plan to stay here this time? Are you going to settle down here or go back to the upper realm?" Ninglang asked as his eyes fell on Xianyuan Mo's and Fengjiu. Their strength had increased rapidly over the years, but they had not expected that when they saw them again, they were actually god kings. Such heaven-defying existences were actually right in front of them. Fengjiu ate a pastry and said casually, "It's hard to say. Maybe we'll stay a little longer, or maybe we'll go back to live there. However, Lung Hua probably hasn't told you yet, right? There's an immortal path between the upper realm and the lower realm. When the time comes, if you want to go, you can also go to the upper realm to take a look." Hearing this, they couldn't help but look at each other in disbelief. Songming asked, "You mean no matter what cultivation level we have, we can also go to the upper realm?" "Yes, that's right." Chapter 3468. Xianyuan Mo's didn't really like pastries, but when she handed it to him, he opened his mouth and ate it. After eating the pastry, he took a sip of tea. The taste is all right. It's not very sweet." In his heart, he thought that since she liked it, he would have the servants at his residence make more pastries that she liked. Song Ming and the others watched the two people feeding each other in the pavilion and couldn't help but be dumbfounded. "We're still standing here, all right? They're actually flaunting their affection right in front of us." For a moment, they couldn't leave, but they couldn't stay either. This made them feel a little awkward. Fengjiu glanced at them from the corner of his eye, then chuckled. "Do you guys want to try it too?" As he spoke, he picked up a pastry and suddenly attacked Song Ming. Song Ming was stunned for a moment before he hurriedly reacted and reached out to catch it. He deflected the force of the attack with his palm, preventing the pastry from breaking into pieces and lying in his palm. However, when Song Ming caught the pastry, Fengjiu threw another 3 pieces at Ninglang and the other 2. Seeing that they all caught the pastries, Fengjiu smiled and said, "Open your hands for me to see." Song Ming opened his hands and said with a smile, "If you want to test our skills, you should at least give us a warning." This sudden attack really gave me a fright. His pastry was intact and didn't break, because Luo Fei, Ninglang, and the others were half a beat slower. They crushed a corner of the pastry in their hands. At this moment, they saw Fengjiu's gaze and couldn't help but smile in embarrassment. I accidentally used too much strength." At this moment, Lung Hua had people bring small wine tables over and place them in the garden. Gu Xiangyi and Ishiran also walked over. Everyone gathered in the garden and looked at each other before introducing themselves. Feng Jiu took out some wine from the space to entertain them. As they drank the wine on the table, they gradually loosened their restraints on the other side. The white-clothed Mo Chan stood before her master at the peak of Celestial Mountain. She gave a simple report of what had happened in the past few years to her master. After a long time, she did not hear her master speak, so she raised her head to look. Tianjizi listened to Mo Chen's words and did not speak for a long time. When he saw Tianjizi looking at him, he could not help but sigh softly. So, in these 5 years, you have been cultivating in the sacred tower and have not been able to sever your feelings. Mo Chen didn't expect his master to say this right away. He paused for a moment, then pursed his lips and lowered his head. He didn't say anything because he didn't know what to say. The air seemed to have quieted down. Outside, snowflakes drifted down and the cold wind whistled, breaking the silence of that moment. Tianjizi sighed softly. Silly child. He shook his head and stood up. With his hands behind his back, he walked slowly and looked at the vast expanse of whiteness outside. After a long while, he said, "So, Feng Jiu and Xianyuan Mos are preparing to get married?" "Yes, they're preparing to go back and get married. This disciple wants to attend their wedding banquet, so I came back to see Master before I left. I also wanted to tell Master about what had happened in the past few years." Chapter 3469. Hearing this, Tianjizi sighed and said, forget it. Go." As he spoke, he turned around and slowly walked away, leaving Mo Chun standing alone at the peak, watching the snowflakes fall from the sky. After a long time, he raised his hand to brush off the snowflakes on his body and walked down the mountain step by step, Phoenix Dynasty, Feng Manor. After staying in Feng Manor for a few days, Xianyuan Mos bid farewell to the elders in the manor and prepared to leave. Feng Jiu sent him out of the city. Along the way, their fingers were interlocked and they did not speak. Only when they reached the city gates did they stop. "Go back. Wait for me to marry you." As Xianyuan Mo spoke, he reached out and tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear, feeling a trace of reluctance in his heart. Feng Jiu looked at him and reached out to hold his hand, gently saying, "Be careful on the road. I'll wait for you." Xianyuan Mos made a sound of agreement and looked at her deeply. Then he turned to look at Hao and reminded him, "Be good." "Yes, father." Hao responded and looked up at him. "Ghost Doctor will be leaving first." Hui Lang and Ying Yi bowed to her with smiles on their faces. After waiting for so many years, their master could finally marry the Ghost Doctor. Thinking that perhaps in another year or two they would have a little master, they felt even more joyful. There was even a faint trace of anticipation. They really wanted to see who the child born from their master and Dr. Ghost would look like. "Go." Feng Jiu nodded slightly and smiled. Hui Lang and Ying Yi cupped their hands to Lung Hua and Lung Shuang, who was holding Hao Er's hand, then quickly followed their master and left. After watching them leave in the flying ship, Feng Jiu looked at Hao and smiled. "Since we're all out, Mother will bring you to Peach Blossom Cove. You haven't been there to play yet." Hao Er's eyes lit up. "Is it where Aunt Xianhua lives?" "And it's there." Feng Jiu reached out and pinched his cheeks. She picked him up and threw Fei Yu to sit down with Hao. Lung Hua and Lung Shuang rode on their swords and followed beside her, heading to Peach Blossom Cove. In the Peach Blossom Cove, Jun Jueshang was looking at Wanyin Xianhua, who was swinging on the swing with a dark face. He was guarding by her side, his heart jumping up and down as she swung. He was afraid that she would accidentally fly out. Wanyin Xianhua acted as if she didn't see him. She grabbed the rope of the swing with both hands and swung. She had been pregnant for a few months, and the fetus had stabilized. She knew that there wouldn't be any accidents when swinging. After all, in her opinion, swinging was not a big deal. But when she saw Junju Shang standing by her side, she was speechless. Every time she swung forward, his gaze would follow closely. Every time she swung, his gaze would follow closely. Being stared at by him like that, even when she swung on the swing, she felt uncomfortable. Have you seen enough? What do you want to do by following me all day? Wang Xianhua's temper rose again. She stopped and stared at Jun Zhushang angrily. Chapter 3470. Huh. Wang Xianhua sat on the swing and sneered. How would I dare to trouble the Xiao Yao sex patriarch to accompany me? You're a high and mighty person. You're not in the same world as me. You'd better stay away from me. Jun Zhushang glanced at her when he heard her strange words and said, You were the one who provoked me first. You raped me, and you're pregnant with my child. Now you want to kick me away? Wang Xianhua choked. Her beautiful eyes glared at him angrily. What do you mean by provoked you first? Who was the one who saved me? If you hadn't saved me, would I have pestered you? She snorted and said, Besides, you're the one who took advantage of her. I've never heard of a man being taken advantage of. As for the child, it has nothing to do with you. I've already said it 800 times. The child is mine. Jun Zhushang looked at her with a strange look in his eyes. He didn't expect such sophistry to come out of her mouth. It was really surprising. Could it be that all women were so unreasonable when they wanted to act shamelessly? He knew he couldn't get through to her, so he didn't bicker with her. He just walked forward and asked, Do you want to walk back with me? Or do you want me to carry you back? Looking at him walking over step by step, Wang Xianhua thought of some of the tough methods he had used these days. She immediately stood up and said, It's not like I don't have legs. As she spoke, she brushed her dress and walked back. Jun Zhushang saw her go back, and he followed her at a moderate pace. The two of them walked, and they could faintly hear Wang Xianhua's disdainful voice. Wang Shan was lying on a peach tree and drinking wine. He glanced at the direction the two of them left, and couldn't help but shake his head and mutter, They're really two enemies. Since Jun Zhushang had come, he hadn't been of any use. He had nothing to do all day. However, the two of them were quite interesting. They wouldn't stop fighting if they didn't quarrel for a day. Of course, he could see that Jun Zhushang had been giving way to his niece, Qianhua. Jun Zhushang's good temper had surprised him. However, he didn't know when these two people would stop. He tilted his head back and drank a mouthful of wine, then closed his eyes and fell asleep on the tree. He thought that it would be good to find time to take a stroll around Fengjiu's residence. At this moment, Fengjiu, who had already arrived at the Peach Blossom Cove, said to Howard, Look, this is the Peach Blossom Cove. Is it nice? As she spoke, she put away Flying Feather, and the two landed steadily. Looking at the peach blossom forest before him, Howard's eyes lit up. Mother, do the peach trees here bear peaches? And they do. The peach blossoms here come in batches. Some are blooming, and some are bearing fruit. There are flowers and fruits all year round. She chuckled and gestured. Go and play by yourself. Just don't leave the Peach Blossom Cove. And Howard replied, then turned to look at Lung Shuang. Aunt Shuang, can you come with me? Go. Fengjiu gestured for Lung Shuang to accompany him. Thus, the two of them walked towards the Peach Blossom Forest. After seeing them enter the Peach Blossom Forest, Fengjiu brought Lung Hua to find Jun Zhushang and Wang Xianhua. Behind them, Yishiran, Gu Xiangyi, and Du Fan were also heading towards the Peach Blossom Cove. Chapter 3471. This is nourishing. It's suitable for you. Jun Zhushang scooped a bowl of soup and placed it in front of her. If this is nourishing, what is this for? Wang Xianhua pointed at another bowl of soup and asked angrily. Jun Zhushang glanced at it and said, It's for the baby. What about this? She pointed at another bowl and asked. It's for the heart and lungs. Her temper was not very good recently. Her heart was too hot. That was why he asked people to make these soups. Anyway, they were suitable for pregnant women. Hearing these words, Wang Xianhua was so angry that she could not speak. She took a deep breath and stood up. She turned around and went into the room. She locked the door. Out of sight, out of mind. Seeing this, Jun Jueshang frowned. He stared at the soup on the table for a while and finally said, "You have to drink at least one." "No, take it away. If you want to drink it yourself." Wang Yin Qianhua's voice came from the room. Feng Jie walked in and heard this. He could not help but chuckle. "What's wrong now?" She glanced at the things on the table and raised her eyebrows. She walked forward and opened them to smell. Then she looked at Jun Jueshang. "Are all these things for my sister? She only had a bowl of soup this morning." Jun Jueshang said. Hearing this, Feng Jie smiled and said, "I haven't eaten anything since I came out of the house. Well, I can drink some of the other soup except for the one for the baby." While speaking, she had already scooped a bowl of soup for herself. She shouted to Wang Yin Qianhua in the room, "Sister, come out and eat with me." Wang Yin Qianhua in the room heard that Feng Jie had come. She was about to come out. However, thinking that Jun Jueshang was still there, she did not move. Now that she heard Feng Jie calling her out to drink soup with her, she thought for a while and opened the door and walked out. "You little girl, why didn't you eat at home? Why did you come here? What's so good about this soup?" Wang Yin Qianhua said with a look of disdain. She said to Leng Hua, "Go to the kitchen and ask someone to cook 2 dishes. Bring 2 bowls of rice here. Your master can't eat enough soup alone." Leng Hua smiled and nodded. Feng Jie, seeing that it was her, Wang Yin Qianhua didn't say anything. He took the bowl and drank half of it. Who knew that as soon as he finished, another bowl of soup was pushed over. This, as Junju Shang spoke, he pushed a bowl of soup in front of her. However, he saw that her face immediately darkened. Feng Jie saw it and could not help laughing. She did not ask her to drink the soup. Instead, she said, "Sister, give me your hand. I'll check your pulse and see how the baby is." Wang Yin Qianhua suppressed her anger when she heard Feng Jie's words. She held out her hand and said worriedly, "Take a look. I feel that my temper is not very good these days." "Will it affect the baby?" Feng Jie checked her pulse. She took her hand back and said with a smile, "Your pulse is very stable. Don't worry, but you should try to keep your mood relaxed. The baby can feel your happy mood." She looked at Jun Jueshang and asked, "How are your skills?" Jun Jueshang did not know what she meant. He looked at her and said, "Not bad." Chapter 3472. Hearing this, Jun Jushang was slightly startled. He looked at Wang Yin Qianhua and glanced at her abdomen. He nodded and said, "Yes, I understand." Wang Yin Qianhua ignored him. She looked at Feng Jie and asked, "There's only about a month left until you and Mose get married. Why do you keep coming here? Don't you need help with the matters in the residence?" Feng Jie smiled and said, "My parents are taking care of those matters. I don't need to do anything. As for the wedding dress and the like, Mose told me that he'll prepare it. After a while, he'll send someone to deliver it to me. So right now, I can be said to be the most idle person here. Once the news of your marriage spreads, it can be said that it has caused a sensation in both the upper world and the lower world. I'm worried that someone will take the opportunity to cause trouble." Wang Yin Qianhua said. She was worried about their wedding. Forget about the people in the lower world. But in the upper world, as well as the hidden enemies, would they take advantage of their wedding to cause trouble? Feng Jie shook his head and said, "No, I don't think they have the guts." They had also discussed this matter. However, in the end, they felt that their enemies would not dare to use their wedding as an excuse to cause trouble. Not to mention the fact that they were god kings. The people who would come to congratulate them would be experts from all over the world. Those people would have to be tired of living to cause a ruckus at such an occasion. The two of them chatted while drinking soup. Junju Shang sat quietly to the side. From time to time, he would add soup for Wang Yin Qianhua when she was talking to Feng Jie and not paying attention. This continued until Leng Hua personally brought the dishes over. With Feng Jie accompanying her, Wang Yin Qianhua ate half a bowl of rice. In the peach blossom forest, Hao Er wandered around and met Wang Yin Shi-san, who was a little tipsy. "Leng Shuang, and this kid? Why are you here?" Wang Yin Shi-san narrowed his eyes, burped, and asked, "Feng Jie is here too?" Seeing that he was slightly drunk and his body was swaying, Leng Shuang took half a step back and said, Master is in the front courtyard. Oh, Wanyan Shursan replied. He looked at the two of them and asked, You're not going? We're going to pick peaches, Hao said. He looked at him and said, You're drunk. As he spoke, he pulled Lung Shuang back a little because he didn't like the smell of alcohol on him. Wanyan Shursan grinned and laughed. Drunk? How could I get drunk so easily? He reached out to touch Hao-er's head, but Hao-er stepped back and tripped over a rock. He lost his balance and fell back with Lung Shuang. Be careful, Lung Shuang said. He moved and reached out to support him. Unexpectedly, Wanyan Shursan saw him fall back and also reached out to support him. At this time, the two of them came together unexpectedly and almost collided. Lung Shuang instinctively moved back to avoid them, but because he was pulled by Hao-er, he also fell to the ground. Wanyan Shursan instinctively wanted to avoid it. However, he, who was slightly drunk, inadvertently glanced at Lung Shuang and saw that there was a sharp stone as big as a fist on the ground behind her. If he let her fall, she would be hurt. At that moment, he, who was about to retreat, leaned forward and reached out to hold her waist. He pulled her up together with Hao-er, who was about to fall. Chapter 3473. However, at this moment, Wanyan Shursan let go of his hand and took a step back. He burped and staggered backward, waving his hand. Be careful, don't fall. There are stones on the ground. I'm going back to sleep. As he spoke, he turned to leave. However, he saw Du Fan and the others standing not far away. He grinned and said, Why are you all here? There are so many unfamiliar faces. Du Fan, Gu Xiangyi, and the others had seen the scene just now. When they saw that the two people's expressions were normal, they suppressed their surprise and walked forward. Du Fan smiled and said, They have nothing to do, so I accompanied them to the Peach Blossom Cove for a walk. Lung Shuang was about to leave with Hao-er, but when he saw them, he also walked forward. Do you need me to accompany you? Wanyan Shursan asked with a smile. There was a hint of drunkenness on his face. His body swayed slightly as he said, I've lived here for a long time, and I'm familiar with this place. If you need me to accompany you, I don't mind drinking with you. Du Fan fanned himself with the fan in his hand and walked in front of him. He smiled and said, No need, I'll just walk with them. We're all family, so there's no need to be so formal. Seeing this, Wanyan 13 nodded and said, That's fine. You can do whatever you want. As he spoke, he hummed a tuneless tune and walked back with swaying steps. After he left, Du Fan looked at Lung Shuang and Hao-er. Do you want to walk around the Peach Blossom Forest too? Yes, Lung Shuang responded and did not say anything else. Hao-er said, I want to see the peaches. In that case, let's go together. Du Fan smiled and looked at the people behind him. He asked, What do you all think? It's my first time here. I want to see the beautiful scenery here. It's great to have you all accompany me, Gu Xiangyi said. Ishiran glanced at the surroundings and said, I'd better just walk around casually. You guys go ahead. He was not very interested in the peach blossom forest. Rather than looking at the peach blossoms and peaches, he would rather find a place to sit down and drink. The four of us walked around the last time we came back, so we won't be going. Song Ming smiled and looked at Luo Fei and the others. How about we find a place to drink? My thoughts exactly. Duan Yi, Luo Fei, and Ning Lang replied. Seeing this, Du Fan smiled and looked at Lung Shuang. If that's the case, I'll accompany them. I'll leave young Master Gu to Lung Shuang. Hearing this, Lung Shuang was stunned, and Gu Xiangyi's eyes flashed. She smiled at Lung Shuang and said, Sorry to trouble you. Lung Shuang nodded slightly, and then walked with him and Hao-er to the peach forest. Seeing them leave, the others smiled and walked to the other side, ready to find a place to sit down and drink. Gu Xiangyi, who was walking with Lung Shuang in the peach blossom forest, suddenly felt that the two of them walking like this did not know what to talk about. She felt a little awkward in the silence. After walking for a while, Hao saw another peach blossom forest in front of them. Seeing that there were peaches there, he ran forward excitedly, leaving the two of them walking behind. Thank you so much for last time. Gu Xiangyi opened her mouth and broke the silence between the two. Chapter 3474. You've already thanked Master, she said faintly and walked forward unhurriedly. Gu Xiangyi looked ahead and said, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have met Fengjiu. So, I still have to thank you. Hearing this, Leng Shuang didn't say anything. She just walked quietly and looked at Hauer, who was playing in the peach forest. Gu Xiangyi quietly accompanied him. The two of them came to the peach forest and stood under a peach tree, watching Hauer climb up the tree. Aunt Shuang, can we pick some peaches to take back? Hauer asked from the tree. Looking at the mouth-watering peaches, he couldn't help but pick one, wipe it clean, and take a bite. Yes, pick more. Give some to Miss Wanyin and the others, and bring some back to the residence, Leng Shuang said and took out 2 baskets from his space. When Hauer heard this, he happily agreed. He ate the peach in his hand in a few bites. Then he picked the biggest peach and threw it down. Auntie Shuang, catch. Leng Shuang stood below and caught the peaches. He put the peaches in the baskets. After picking 2 baskets full of peaches, Leng Shuang was about to lift them when he saw Gu Xiangyi bending down to pick them up. I'll do it, Gu Xiangyi said and looked at her and Hauer. Are we going back? Leng Shuang looked at Hauer, and Hauer agreed. Then, the 3 of them walked back. Fengjiu accompanied Wanyin Qianhua out for a walk and saw a few people drinking under the peach tree. Seeing them, she raised her eyebrows. Why are you here? The scenery here is good. It's perfect for drinking and parties, Song Ming said and glanced at Fengjiu and Wanyin Qianhua, then looked at Jun Jueshang. Do you want to drink a few cups? Duan Yi asked. No, I just had dinner with my sister and was about to take a walk, Fengjiu said. Mother, how? Er's voice came from nearby. Fengjiu looked over and saw the little figure running over. His little face was flushed with excitement. Mother, we picked peaches. Look. He pointed behind him. Fengjiu looked over and saw Gu Xiangyi and Leng Shuang walking over. Gu Xiangyi was carrying 2 baskets of peaches. Seeing the 2 of them, Fengjiu smiled and rubbed Hauer's head. Hauer, go wash the peaches with Leng Shuang and cut some for everyone to eat. Okay, Hauer replied and trotted to Leng Shuang's side. Gu Xiangyi put down the peaches and watched as Leng Shuang and Hauer took some a wash. She then said, You didn't let anyone pick the peaches in the peach forest, did you? Someone will come regularly to pick them and brew them into wine. Fengjiu smiled and said, Since you're all here, I'll have someone bring some peach wine for you to try. As Fengjiu spoke, he looked at Leng Hua and gestured. Leng Hua understood and turned to leave. Not long after, he came back with a jar of wine and placed it next to everyone. I'll pour, Du Fan said and poured a cup for everyone. He also poured a cup for himself to try. The taste of peaches was thick in the mouth. The taste of the wine was not very strong, but the texture was very special. It made everyone feel that it was unique. The more they drank, the better it tasted. They stayed there until the sky gradually darkened. Only then did they return to the Feng Manor with Fengjiu. In the following days, because the day of the wedding approached, the Feng Manor became more and more joyous. About half a month passed. One morning, Hui Lang came to the Feng Manor with a smile on his face. Chapter 3475. I'm here on Master's orders to deliver the wedding dress for the ghost doctor, Hui Lang said with a smile, asking, Has the ghost doctor woken up? She wouldn't still be sleeping right now, right? Du Fan looked at the sky and said, You've come early. Master is indeed still sleeping. As he spoke, he walked inside with him, saying, Go inside and tell Ling Shuang. Let Ling Shuang see if Master is awake. Hearing this, Hui Lang waved his hand and said, No rush, no rush. My master had me deliver something and left it here. I'm not in a hurry to go back. When the ghost doctor wakes up, I'll give it to her. Seeing this, Du Fan said, All right then, you're familiar with the manor, so you can go rest. I still have matters to attend to, so I won't accompany you. All right. Go ahead, Hui Lang said. He didn't ask him to accompany him and walked inside. In the manor's backyard, Feng Sanyuan was eating breakfast with Su Shi. Thinking of his youngest son, he couldn't help but sigh. Feng Yu wasn't able to come back when Feng Girl got married this time. I haven't seen him for many years. I wonder if that boy has grown taller? Speaking of which, he also missed his youngest son. It was just that when he sent him back that year, it was said that he couldn't leave the mountain until the time was right. He hadn't come back in all these years, so they also missed him. Hearing this, a longing expression appeared on Sushi's face. She said, "That's right. I haven't seen ye, for many years. However, this can't be helped. After a few more years, when he leaves the mountain, he can come back to see us." After what happened that year, as long as her son was alive, it didn't matter if she couldn't see him. On the other side, Feng Xiao, who had just finished practicing, walked into the courtyard with large strides and called Wanrong. Shangwan Wanrong came out, looked at Feng Xiao and asked, "What's wrong?" "I just met Hui Lang in front. He said that Mo's asked him to send a wedding dress to Xiao Jiao. Later, you can go to Xiao Jiao's courtyard and see if there's anything that needs to be changed," Feng Xiao said as he sat down at the table and poured himself a glass of water. Hearing this, Shangwan Wanrong revealed a gentle smile. "Okay, I understand." She gave Feng Xiao a set of clothes and said, "I've already asked someone to prepare water for you. You just came back from practicing martial arts, so you're covered in sweat. Go take a bath. I'll put your clothes here." Seeing her busy there, Feng Xiao laughed and said, "Let the servants do it. You don't have to do it. By the way, have you eaten breakfast?" "Not yet. We'll wait for you to come back so that we can eat together," Shangwan Wanrong said as she walked outside and told the maid to prepare. "How many times have I said that you don't have to wait for me? If you're hungry, you can eat first." Feng Xiao said as he walked towards the washroom and said, "I'll go change and eat with you later." "Okay." Shangwan Wanrong softly responded and asked, "Do you need me to help you wipe your back?" "No need. I can do it myself. I don't want to get your dress wet," Feng Xiao said as he let her go out first. Seeing this, Shangwan Wanrong went to sit in the courtyard and prepare to go to her daughter's courtyard after breakfast to see if there was anything that needed to be prepared. On the other side, Feng Zhou walked out of the room after washing up and stretching. He went to the soft couch in the courtyard and lay down. He felt that the recent days had been too leisurely and boring. Chapter 3476. Feng Zhou, who was lazily lying on the soft couch, heard this and immediately became alert. "Hui Lang is here? Why is he here? Where is he? Tell him to come." He said that he was following the Yama Lord's orders to deliver the wedding dress to Master. Because he came early in the morning, he didn't disturb Master. "I'll go call him over now," Lung Shuang said and then retreated. "Wedding dress?" Feng Zhou lay back on the soft couch, her hands behind her head. She looked at the sky and thought. Zay said that he would prepare the wedding dress. I wonder what kind of wedding dress he'll prepare. It had to be said that at this moment, she was really looking forward to it. Not long after, Lung Shuang and Hui Lang walked in together. "Ghost Doctor." Hui Lang smiled as he walked in. "Master told me to deliver the wedding dress. The Ghost Doctor will definitely like it." Feng Zhou sat up and asked, "Where is it? Take it out and let me see." Hui Lang made a sound of agreement and then took out a large square box from his space. He carried the large box to Feng Zhou and said to Lung Shuang, "Lung Shuang, help me open the box." Lung Shuang stepped forward and opened the large box, then retreated to the side. His eyes naturally looked towards the large box, and he couldn't help but be unable to move his eyes away. Feng Zhou watched as the box was opened. In an instant, brilliant lights and vibrant colors shone out, causing her eyes to be dazzled. Although she didn't pick up the wedding dress and unfold it, just by looking at it, she knew that this wedding dress was very beautiful and dazzling. This was already beyond the scope of a wedding dress. It could be said that it was a dazzling immortal dress. The dazzling red and noble gold set off each other, so beautiful that it made people unable to move their eyes away. When Hui Lang saw the surprise in Feng Zhou's eyes and the joy on his face, the smile on his face deepened. He was about to speak with a smug look on his face when he heard Shangwan Wanrong's voice behind him. "Xiao Jiao, I heard that Mo's asked Hui Lang to send you a wedding dress. What kind of wedding dress is it?" Shangguan Wanrong dismissed the two servant girls behind her and slowly walked in. When Hui Lang and Lung Shuang saw her, they hurriedly bowed and greeted her, Madam. Shangguan Wanrong indicated that the two of them didn't need to be overly courteous and walked forward. Mother. Feng Jiu stood up and walked forward to support her hand. He smiled and said, Mother, you've come just in time. Hui Lang just brought me the wedding dress. I'm just opening it and looking at it. I haven't taken it out yet. Shangguan Wanrong looked at the dazzling wedding dress in the box, and the smile on her face overflowed. It's extremely beautiful just looking at it. Also, this wedding dress shouldn't be an ordinary item. It must have been hard on him to be able to find such a wedding dress for you in such a short time. Hui Lang listened and hurriedly nodded. Madam has good eyes. This is indeed not an ordinary wedding dress. He grinned and looked at them. This dress is called the Thousand Illusions Color Glass Robe. Not only is it a wedding dress, it's also an immortal rank defensive dress. Furthermore, it can be changed in several styles at will. The golden thread on it is the scarlet flame golden thread that masters specially found. It's incomparably tough and hard to be broken by swords. Wearing this dress is said to be as light as a cicada's wing and extremely comfortable. You won't feel the weight of the dress at all. The more he spoke, the more excited he became. He said, Ghost Doctor, do you want to try it first? This Thousand Illusions color glass robe is a wedding dress. After wearing it, you'll feel different. Since Madam is also here, it'll be good to let her see it. Chapter 3477. Hearing this, Feng Jiu thought for a moment, then said, That's fine, let's try it on. Thus, she had Lung Shuang take the box containing the clothes from Hui Lang's hands and walk towards the room. Hui Lang waited outside, while Shangguan Wanrong and Lung Shuang accompanied Feng Jiu into the room to change. In the room, when Shangguan Wanrong and Lung Shuang took the clothes out of the box, they discovered that the new wedding dress was actually a long dress with a trailing tail, extremely luxurious and dazzling. Layers of light muslin overlapped, but it was as light as a cicada's wing, as smooth as silk. Shangguan Wanrong saw this, and her face overflowed with a smile. Quickly put it on and see. This wedding dress must be extremely beautiful on you. Seeing this, Feng Jiu let the two of them help her put on the dress. Because it was a wedding dress, it looked grand and luxurious. The entire wedding dress was mainly red, supplemented by gold. On the red wedding dress, there was a lifelike phoenix embroidered with gold thread. The extremely long skirt, sleeves, and collar also had golden lotus flowers, dazzling and eye-catching. Just putting on this dress took nearly the time it takes to burn a stick of incense. After the new wedding dress was put on, Shangguan Wanrong looked at her daughter in front of her, and her eyes couldn't help but be filled with pride and amazement. My daughter is really beautiful. This wedding dress really suits you. Wearing the luxurious and dazzling wedding dress, her entire body exuded a noble aura. That kind of innate, noble aura forced people to be unable to look directly at her, leaving only heartfelt admiration. Feng Jiu looked at the figure in the mirror and couldn't help but purse her lips and smile. Following her thoughts, the luxurious and noble wedding dress on her body changed into a simple red dress. This dress is really not bad, Feng Jiu said, taking off the dress and having Lung Shuang fold it up and put it back in her red dress. Shangguan Wanrong said with a smile, I originally thought it was an ordinary wedding dress, so I came to see if it fit and if it needed to be changed. I didn't expect it to be this kind of dress, and I don't even need to change it. Feng Jiu held her mother's hand and walked out. Hui Lang, who was waiting outside, came up to them and asked with a grin, Ghost Doctor, how are the clothes? Is it suitable? Feng Jiu pursed his lips and smiled. It's suitable. I like it very much. I'll send a message to Zay later. That's good. Hui Lang replied with a smile. Master asked me to stay here. I will help out here during this period of time and wait for Master's wedding procession to arrive. As they were talking, they suddenly heard the sound of thunder in the sky. Feng Jiao and the others were slightly surprised and looked up at the sky. Strange, why is there thunder in broad daylight? Huilang muttered as he looked at the sky. He saw that the sky was blue and white clouds, and it didn't look like it was going to rain. Hearing the sound of thunder, Feng Jiao's eyes deepened. The smile on his face disappeared, and his expression became thoughtful. Seeing her like this, Shangguan Wanrong couldn't help but worry and asked, "What's wrong?" Feng Jiao smiled slightly and comforted, "It's nothing." Her voice paused and said, "Mother, you go back first. I want to go to Peach Blossom Cove." Hearing this, Shangguan Wanrong said, "Qianhua lives in Peach Blossom Cove. It's not as good as living in the manor. Why don't you let her move in?" "No need, she likes it there. It's quiet there, and Junju Shang and Wanyan San are there. Don't worry about her," Feng Jiao said with a smile. Chapter 3478. She was worried that she would bear everything in her heart. That lightning just now was not ordinary. However, she did not say anything. It seemed that she had to go back and ask Feng Xiao and the old man. "I know. Mother, don't worry." Feng Jiao smiled and walked her out of the courtyard. He told the servant girl waiting outside, "Send madam back." "Yes." The servant girl replied and went to Shangguan Wanrong's side. Shangguan Wanrong saw this and left without saying anything else. "Ghost doctor, is there something wrong with that lightning?" Huilang asked after Shangguan Wanrong left. Feng Jiao looked at the sky and thought deeply. It is indeed not ordinary lightning. It is the lightning of the divine king realm. Lung Shuang and Huilang's expressions became serious when they heard this. Lightning of the divine king realm? Their people were all here, so who would be the one to advance to the god king level? If it was someone on their side, it would be fine. However, if it was an enemy, it would be troublesome. Thinking of this, Grey Wolf asked, "Ghost Doctor, who do you think will become a divine king? Could it be young Master Mo Chun?" "It's not me." Suddenly, a gentle voice came from outside. Hearing that familiar voice, everyone in the courtyard looked out and saw Mo Chun, dressed in white, slowly walking in. "If it's not you, then it's very likely to be an enemy," Feng Jiao said and smiled. "I thought you would only come on the day of my wedding." Mo Chan walked forward slowly and looked at her. "I was afraid that I would be delayed on the way, so I came here after going to Heaven Mountain. As soon as I arrived, I heard the sound of thunder in the sky." He paused for a moment before asking, "What are your plans?" "Before you came, I want to go to Peach Blossom Cove to discuss with Junju Shang and Wanyan San. The birth of another immortal king-level expert in this world was definitely not a small matter. It should be known that if it was an enemy, then the enemy's strength would increase by quite a bit. Between the upper and lower realms, apart from Sovereign Tongtian and Sovereign Xuanwu, only she and Mo Zhe had reached the Divine King realm. Before this, they had 3 Divine Kings on their side. On Sovereign Tongtian's side, apart from Sovereign Tongtian, the Demon Lord and the person with the Black Lotus of Destruction were the ones they feared the most. Just who exactly was this newly born God King level expert? They still had to find a way to find out. At the very least, they had to be mentally prepared so that they wouldn't be caught off guard one day. Then, let's have someone check it out. Let's see who has advanced. Imochen looked at her and said, "Don't worry, I won't let anyone ruin your wedding with Mo's." Hearing this, Feng Jiu looked at him deeply and said, "I don't think they will do anything on the day of the wedding. After all, there will be many experts who won't come to congratulate us. Even if they want to find a chance to attack us, they won't choose that time." She said, "But we still have to find out who has advanced. How about this? I'll make a trip to Peach Blossom Cove. You must be tired from the journey, so you can rest in the residence." "No need, I'll go with you," Mo Chun said. "You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.